go? Yeah, let's go. So you guys, if you're new to the recording thing, on your end, you should just have permission for me to record. I think you have to say okay or yes or some kind of verbiage like that. Somebody just asked if I can share my email, and that is the very first thing that I do. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Julie Campbell. I teach pre-licensing here for Carolina School of Real Estate. I do post-licensing for Lane. I do the Cram course for Lane. Pretty much do whatever Lane wants me to. It's just easier that way. When Lane's happy, we're all happy. So that way it works out. I'm always available for questions. If there's anything I can ever do, this is how you can get in touch with me. I know my email's long, but if you look at it, it makes sense. Because who am I? I am Julie, the real estate instructor at gmail.com. So that's easier for you to remember instead of trying to jot that down. And then, of course, my phone number is available if you want to shoot me questions, especially over these next couple of days, because I know you guys are you're in cram mode. This is how you get in touch with me. So I'm going to jump right in. And when we talk about state-specific stuff, I think where I like to start is some of the material that we're going to see the most heavily tested. And one of the things you're going to see heavily tested, a topic you're going to see reoccurring on your test over and over and over and over again, is about agency. Agency is important, you guys. Agency is what regulates and dictates how I work with the consumer. We all know the Real Estate Commission's main purpose, yes? The Real Estate Commission's main purpose is what? See you guys' mouth move? Yeah, it's not to help me make lots of money. It's not to help me get lots of buyers and sellers and transactions. The Real Estate Commission's main purpose is to protect the public. And one way that they can protect the public is make sure that we have a very good understanding of agency. So we're going to spend probably the first, good hour or so this morning going over agency and making sure that we're handling that right. Agency it all starts with our working with real estate agent disclosure. Now let's go ahead and get this out there to begin with. The working with real estate agent disclosure is not a client form. It's not a client form. We're not giving this form to clients, are we? No. Who are we giving this form to? Who gets this form?
Customers.
The consumer. That's right. Maybe you're going to be my customer. Maybe you're going to be my client. But this is a consumer form. This is where it all starts. And it has to start with me disclosing my agency status in this transaction. Where do I stand? Who do I represent in this transaction? And it's of my opinion, nod, nod, wink, wink. I think the most important point of this form is for the consumer to understand, I don't owe you confidentiality until you decide to hire me. So guess what? If you never hire me, then I don't owe you confidentiality. Everybody with me? So this form explains this. It actually says, if you guys will please review it, should be in your Learn, Test, Pass. It actually says, don't share anything with this agent until you hire them. They do not owe you confidentiality. So it makes it pretty clear. What I'm doing with this form is disclosing my agency status. I'm letting the consumer know early on, stop talking or please don't say too much, because in this transaction, this is who I represent. In this transaction, this is who my loyalty is to. If, for example, I'm the listing agent and you are the buyer and you reach out to me and you start talking about your reason for buying and how much you're willing to pay and when you have to buy, you are talking to me, but because I represent the seller, you might as well be talking directly to the seller. You, the buyer, don't you have the right to know that? Don't you have the right to know that what you share with me is just as good as sharing directly with my seller? And that's what a big part of this form does. The real estate working, I'm sorry, the working, what did I say? Working with real estate agent disclosure is a sales for sales transactions. Please make sure you make a note of that, you guys. This is where they like to trick you on your test. Does that say all real estate transactions? Do we do this for every single one of them? No, we only do this for what kind of transactions? Just sales. What type of transaction do I not do this for? What do we don't do
Like
this for?
rental property?
Like a rental property. So lease transactions are exempt from the working with real estate agent. Thus, all transactions do not, everybody with me? That's why we can't say all, because it doesn't fall under all. It's just sales. And again, so we're all clear. Can we all agree that a commercial sales transaction is a sales transaction? It doesn't matter that it's commercial. It's still sales. So residential sales and commercial sales. Handing them the disclosure and saying sign here, or emailing it to them and saying sign here is not enough. We have a duty to hand it to them and review it with them, to discuss it with them, to talk about our options. As a matter of fact, we actually give them a menu. We give them the items. We say, this is how the firm can agree to work with you. Am I going to be your exclusive agent? Am I going to be a dual agent, a designated agent? Or are we going to go forward unrepresented? It's not how we are going to work together. It's how the firm, the options that the firm has. Some firms practice dual agency. Some firms practice designated, but not all. So it's our opportunity to tell the consumer, these are the options that we have available. Again, handing it to them is not enough. Here you go, sign this. How does that protect the consumer? Do you think when the consumer reads this form, they understand it? If the consumer reads this form, they understand it? You guys think they get it? Probably not. That's why they're talking to us, right? Guys, we're the experts in this transaction. We're the experts in these conversations. And we have a duty to make sure that the consumer understands that. All of these working with real estate agent disclosures have to be signed by the broker. So well, they're not signed, I'm sorry, they include the broker's name. And then you have your license number. Pretty much anytime you put your name on anything, you're going to include your license number. So once you guys get licensed, go ahead and memorize that number. Question comes in, does this happen before agency happens? Yes, as we said very early, this is not a client form. This is a consumer form. If I'm doing this at consumer level, are you going to be my client? I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe I'm never going to see you again. This is the very first step. Before I can do anything else with you, I've got to start here. So we put in our information. We make sure we get a copy in their hand. The Real Estate Commission has also provided this Q&A brochure that kind of goes through agency, working with sellers, working with buyers, terminating agency. Guys, the Real Estate Commission, the North Carolina Association of Realtors, your local board of realtors, your firm, all these places are resources for you guys. Why y'all out there going to be trying to recreating the wheel? They give you these resources, these forms, use them as tools. Use this to help explain to the consumer. And this is where I think the form gets tricky, because commission rule says that we have to review with consumers no later than first substantial contact. There is a point in time when this form is too late. This form is too late once we've hit this beautiful notion, this beautiful idea of first substantial contact. We always need to be on alert for first substantial contact. We need to listen. When the consumer starts talking, if the consumer's talking about the property features, oh, there's a kitchen. Ooh, this is 3 bedrooms. Did I hit first substantial contact? Do I know anything at all? I know you can count bedrooms and I know you can identify a kitchen. Is that considered first substantial contact? No. I think the general rule of thumb here says we can talk about the property all day long. Where we need to listen and be on alert is when we start feeling that that conversation is going to switch gears from the property to the person, to the individual person. And that's where this notion of first substantial contact comes up. This is not a fine science. This is not an art. This is hard. We need to get this information out before first substantial contact happens. But can first substantial contact like swoop up on us and sneak up and clobber us over the head? Yeah, that's how first substantial contact works. You don't know when it's coming, and that's why we need to be on alert. So in a perfect world, y'all, let's pretend for 1 second we live in a perfect world. This will be fun. 1 second we live in a perfect world. Working with a real estate agent is always done before we hit first substantial contact. Now let's get back to reality. Do we live in a perfect world? No, not even a little bit, do we? So we need to be on alert. We need to be aware. So you're doing an open house on Sunday, and somebody walks in the front door and they say, hi, I'm just here to look. And you say, well, welcome, come on in. Thank you for stopping by. Do I have to do working with real estate agent disclosures? They just walked in the door and said, hi. Do I have to do it? No, I haven't hit first substantial contact yet. Could I do working with real estate agent as soon as they walk in the door? Sure. Do I run the risk of running them off? Imagine coming to my open house on Sunday and they say, hi, I'm here to see this house. And I say, well, I need you to sign this. And we got to have this conversation about confidentiality before you walk in the front door. Are you going to turn around and run away? I would. So we want to make sure that we don't scare them, but yet as they're going through the home, we need to pay attention. So these guys come through, I welcome them in, I tell them I got cookies in the kitchen, help yourself, whatever. Maybe I got a goodie bag for them, tell them to help themselves. Then on their way out the door, I say, do you guys have any questions? And they say, no, this is nice, but you know, we just started. We're not really serious yet. We just wanted to get out and get an idea. They walk out the door, get in their car and leave. Did first substantial contact ever happen? Those people were in and out of my life so fast. It was done. It was over. It never happened. But what if they're on their way out the door and I say, thank you guys for stopping by. Did you have any questions? And they say, this is nice. You know, we got a job relocation and we need to move within the next couple months. Boom. First substantial contact just clobbered me over the head, didn't it? I didn't get to do my working with real estate agent before. Now I have a duty to tell them to stop talking. We've already hit first substantial contact. I owe it to them to make sure that they understand what they're saying could harm them if they choose to bring an offer to these sellers. Isn't that fair? Isn't that fair? And this is why we call this a consumer form. Y'all, this isn't here for me. This form is here for them. And this is why I need to be on alert. If that moment in time gets away from me and we hit first substantial contact, I got to make it right. I got to interject. I got to get this information. Please don't wait for them to finish their lifelong story and then say, by the by, I have to tell that to my seller. Wish you hadn't told me that. Do you have a happy consumer? Gosh, no. Now, what if they say, well, we you know, job relocation and we have to move. And I say, whoa. I appreciate you sharing this with me, but you need to know in this transaction, I represent the seller. So if you move forward in this transaction, I have a duty to share what you're sharing with the seller. I don't owe you confidentiality, sign here. And they say, well, I thank you for sharing. So anyway, as we were saying, we're relocating and we're moving and we have 3 kids and they need to be in a certain school, da-da-da-da-da. I've done my working with real estate agent. I've hit my first substantial contact, but they insist on keep talking. Do you think people like to talk? It blows my mind. People, man, they will talk. Because any stranger ever approached you in the grocery store and started telling you about what happened to them today? People like to talk. Once I've done my thing, once I have, and hear me when I say this, once I have properly gone over the working with real estate agent disclosure, once I've had them sign, if they insist on keep talking, my client is who? My client's the seller. So once I've given them that warning and told them to stop talking, if they keep going, get out your pen and your notepad and take notes, because we have a duty to share that information with the seller when they bring an offer. I can warn them, but I cannot stop them. And this, you guys, I think is where is challenging for agents, especially new agents. Well, I mean, seasoned agents too. Please don't think that seasoned agents do this right regularly. We always need to be on alert. Anytime you're out there acting, I say, as a capacity of an agent, anytime you're putting yourself out there as an agent, we need to be on alert. My husband calls me a traveling billboard. If you ever get behind me at the stoplight, you will know. The back windshield of my car has my firm, my name, my email address, my phone number, and the fact that I'm a real estate professional. Could I hit first substantial contact in, I don't know, the Walmart parking lot? Somebody get out of my car and say real estate professional and think, oh, I've been wanting to talk to somebody about real estate. You see how easy it can happen. One thing you guys may encounter when you affiliate with your firms, especially as new agents, you may be encouraged to wear your name badge everywhere you go. Why do they want you to wear your name badge everywhere you go? Why would they want you to do that? They're putting a tag on you, aren't they? I see you guys' mouth move. Yeah. They want you to wear your name badge because they want people to come up to you and start talking about real estate. Yes, maybe this is an easy way to get business. I'm not kidding y'all. When I'm telling you guys, people like to talk and people like to talk about real estate. So let's say you swing by Harris Teeter on your way home and you got your name badge on and you're standing there deciding what kind of cereal you want. Could somebody come up to you in aisle 4 of Harris Teeter and start having a conversation about real estate that goes to first substantial contact? It's so easy to do. And that's where we need to be on alert. Always be on alert. Generally with first substantial contact, I think if we can remember PTM, PTM. Let's put this over here. PTM stands for price, term, and motive. I think a good rule of thumb says, once we start learning the consumers' price that they're willing to offer, price that they're willing to accept, once the conversation turns to the consumer's terms that they're willing to tolerate, that they're willing to consider, or once we start learning or asking their motivation for buying or selling. Why do you have to buy? Why do you have to sell? I'm here to tell you guys, when it comes to this motive, there's kind of like twofold. Why do you have to buy? Why do you have to sell? But then there's also time that can create a sense of urgency. Once you get your license, everybody you meet is going to tell you that they want to buy or sell. That may be a pipe dream. So it's different. And we're thinking about buying in a couple years versus we have to buy in 2 months. Everybody hear the difference there? Everybody wants to buy and sell. Everybody does. But that doesn't mean that we've uncovered their motive. Again, before they start volunteering the information or before we start asking, we cannot seek or learn their PTM. Think of the working with real estate agent disclosure as the consumer's Miranda rights. I know we don't know these firsthand, but we've seen enough TV shows to know what the Miranda rights are. And in part, what do those Miranda rights say? Anything you say can be held against you. That's a fair warning. So generally, not always, generally, first substantial contact is going to happen prior to listing appointments, prior to buyer consultation appointments, when we know we're going to start asking questions or learning a lot of information. It's important that we understand, though, that first substantial contact does not always happen face-to-face. It doesn't always happen over the phone. Remember what I just said. We always need to be on alert. So can first substantial contact happen via email? Can first substantial contact happen on the phone? Can somebody call you and start sharing their price, term, or motive? Absolutely. We don't have to be face to face. So what if first substantial contact is not face to face? Can anybody tell me how many days you have now to get the form to the consumer? And I see it coming in the chat. I'm liking what I'm seeing. She got in first. How many days do we have to get this this form to the consumer? 3. Now let's make sure we understand what I just said. Do I wait 3 days to discuss it with them? No, let's make sure we know what this says. I have 3 days to get them the form. Can I reply to the email and say, please be careful what you tell me? Can I stop them on the phone and say, don't say anything else until I explain this to you? There's a difference in discussing it with them and getting the form. So even if first substantial contact doesn't happen face to face, we're still going to discuss it with them. And then we're going to say, I'm about to send you an email for you to sign acknowledging this form. This is not a contract. This in no way creates agency. This is just me sending you in writing the conversation that I just had with you. It's amazing to me, you guys. I had a listing a couple years ago, and somebody in my office, or they called off the sign, and somebody in my office answered the phone, hi, thanks for calling. And the lady on the phone said, I'm calling about your listing at 123 Main Street. And she said, oh, good, thank you for calling. And she said, we're pre-approved for X amount. We need to move in a couple months, Just launched into her current situation, y'all. We didn't even know her name yet, but we bumped into first substantial contact. And my teammate said, whoa, what are you doing? If she would have brought an offer, don't I have a duty to tell my seller everything that she just rattled off to me? How much is she pre-approved for, what she want to buy, her motive, That's what it's about. We've got to be on alert. We have to know when to warn them. It's a protecting them, protecting the consumer. What questions do I have so far? Working with real estate agent disclosures. I will say one more thing about this. It's a science. It takes time. I'm telling you guys, the first couple of times you do this disclosure, it's going to be bumpy and it's going to be awkward, and you're going to walk away going, oh my God, did I just say that? It's going to be weird. The more you do it, the more you practice, let's call it your elevator speech, and you form what you're going to say. I promise you, over time, it gets better. How it gets better is you practice, 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 practice. Welcome if you're just joining us. I know we had a good handful come in. I am recording. So if you do want to copy if you're in Nancy's class and you want to copy the recording, please leave me your email address in a private chat, and I'll be happy to send you the YouTube link. My guys, you don't have to worry about it. I know how to find you. My guys will put ours in our YouTube channel. So Nancy's class only. If you're just joining us, please make sure I have your email address. Good. Thank you, guys. It'll be later this afternoon before the recording, like Zoom has to process it and then YouTube has to upload it. There's all like things that has to happen. So again, my guys, it'll be available in our YouTube channel later today. Nancy's class, I will email it to you later today, as long as I have your email address. If I don't have your email address, I can't email it to you. Thank you. Working with real estate agents, not a client form. We do this with consumers. Some of those consumers go on to become our clients. Probably not all of them. If all of them do, then you guys are doing something I'm not. But not all of them are going to go on to become clients. But some of them do. So the consumer that becomes a client using our agency agreements. First off, let's make sure we all understand. Agency disclosure does not create agency. I feel the need to say that again. Agency disclosure does not create agency. What creates agency? It's our agency agreement. I have two different things going on here. We have a disclosure and we have an agreement. Once you decide to hire me, once you decide to become my client, we do so by using our agency agreement. Eventually, all of our agency agreements have to be in writing, signed by all parties. The buyer or seller will sign. The broker is typically allowed to sign on behalf of the firm. Everybody good with that? Agency agreement is between the client and the firm. It's not your seller. It's not your buyer. It's the firm's client. They allow you to work with their client. They allow you to sign. Whenever, yeah. I thought I heard something. I hear things apparently. Whenever you're working with the owner of a property, may it be for sale or for rent. Whenever you're working with the owner, the agency agreement has to be in writing from the inception. I cannot perform a single service for an owner without having a written signed agency agreement. I can work with a buyer or a tenant under an oral agreement at first. The rules allow me to work with a buyer or a tenant. Commission rule says I can work with a buyer under an oral agency agreement up until the time I'm ready to present an offer on their behalf. This is what we need to understand. An oral buyer agency agreement is an agency agreement. An oral buyer agency agreement is an agency agreement. It's an express agreement. Express agreements can be in writing. They can be oral. What makes it express? Because the terms have been clearly stated. So as long as I explain to that buyer what it means to work with me, what do I owe you? What do you get? Dual agency, compensation, blah, blah, blah. As long as I explain the terms of the agency agreement to this buyer, I can work with a buyer under an oral. So if I'm in an oral agreement with a buyer, what duties do I owe that buyer? We can sum all this up in 2 words. What duties do I owe that buyer under an oral agreement? And chat or unmute is fine, either one. I swear some of you are ready for me. Do you guys know I was going to ask that? You must have. Under an oral buyer agency agreement, I owe them old car. I owe them old car. I explain these duties. I have these conversations. My guys know this, but Nancy's guys, I want you to jot something down for me if you don't already have it written down really big. It's so important that we document everything. So if you have a verbal conversation with somebody about what agency means, are you going to go home and follow it up with an email talking about per our conversation? This is what it means when I offer you agency. And talk to them, email them. Yes, document everything. everything. What does the buyer in an oral buyer agency agreement owe me? What do they owe me, the agent? What do they owe me? Yeah, that's pretty much it. They can't lie to me, or they shouldn't. Let's rephrase that. They shouldn't. I can't make them pay me compensation in an oral agency agreement. I cannot demand exclusivity in an oral agency agreement. Guys, when you're talking about agency agreements, that word exclusive means a whole lot. If you read a test question and it tells you you're working with a buyer exclusively, that's all you need to know to tell you that this is in writing. Because you cannot have an exclusive relationship orally. Exclusive relationships. If you're dating somebody exclusively, how many people should you be dating? Just one. Just one. Should be just one. Exclusivity is a one-way street. In an exclusive relationship, the client is only dating one firm. I cannot demand exclusivity in an oral agreement. So in an oral agreement, how many firms can the buyer date? As many as they want. Yeah, they could play the field, can't they? Guys, there are buyers out there that call agents and say, this is what I'm looking for. The first one that finds it for me wins. Go. So who's going to get paid? Who's going to get that written agreement? The one that finds them what they're looking for. So in an oral agreement, everybody go with me? No exclusivity. We cannot demand exclusivity. We cannot commit the buyer to only date us in an oral agreement. If you want that commitment, you got to put it in writing. The other stipulation about oral buyer agency, we cannot demand that the buyer work with us for a period of time. So in an oral agreement, I can't say me and you 2 months, or you're going to work with me for 2 months. If I want to put a period of time on it, I got to put it in writing. So that's why we say the latest we have to put it in writing is before I can present an offer on your behalf. But there's some caveats there. Non-exclusive, non-specified period of time. There's no rule that says how early we can put this thing in writing. Can I say from the get-go, here's our working with real estate agent disclosure, here's our agency agreement, sign this, or we're not going to proceed? Could I? There's no rule that says how early. The rule says how late I can work with a buyer under an oral agreement. What questions do I have? Oral buyer agency.
I'm just wondering, in this rule, like when you are out and you're showing property or you're at a home and they come in, everything is becoming so, detailed, and all, everybody's T's are crossed and I's are dotted. I don't see why in the future, very, very near future, this can't be something that is a part of the immediate conversation. Like when somebody walks in,
And there's, you can.
Yeah, and it flow easier to where, it doesn't seem to be, because like as I'm been in this class and I'm listening, I do understand like that this area is very important, and also you can miss the opportunity. So I'm in my mind, I'm thinking like, how do you smooth that out in a way that every single time you hit the mark?
That goes back to practicing your elevator speech.
Yeah.
Yep. So and to your point, some firms will not allow their brokers to work with an oral buyer. Some firms will say, look, if the buyer doesn't sign this, and we're not going to work. Some brokers work the same thing too. Guys, it's so important that we understand. Your test is not going to ask you how you're going to practice your business. Your test is going to ask you how you can practice. Once you get your license, you can form your business however you or your firm tell you to. You guys with me? So please don't, and I hear you, I agree. It's so much easier for us if we can get the buyer in writing from early, and then we know they're committed to us, we know that they're obligated to pay us, isn't that what's better for us?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But remember, you guys, what does Old Car say? Old
Right.
Car says it's not about me, it's about them. And that's why we have a commission rule that allows us to work with them under an oral agreement at first. Think of buyers as like these timid, skittish little creatures that, you know, like deer in the woods, right? The little noise, and they run away. These are your buyers. So by allowing us to work with them under an oral agreement at first, if we choose, then that helps us build that trust in that relationship. And like I said, you'll get your little elevator speech down pat. Once you work with a couple buyers, you'll have your little spiel out there ready to go.
For me, I guess it's just the way I think. I have to put the two together. So I see these as words, and then as you have been teaching us, you know, yes, so much stuff is crammed, but if I can take this in the moment that you're talking about it and put it into a real life situation in my head,
there you go.
It just helps me to understand the big picture as you're going through this.
I just want to make sure you don't get in your own way and think you're going to get all buyers in writing when you first meet them, because that's not what the rule says. And the rule is what you're going to be tested on. So that's why I think it's important. We got to know the rule. That's what the test is on. So we see the words, we hear the conversations. Okay. So eventually, as we said, all of our agency agreements have to be in writing. So the written agency agreements, y'all see that word must? You guys be looking for those absolute words, must, all, always, never. Those are pretty strong words, aren't they? Must, is there any wiggle room to must? Is there an exception to must? All right, so all of our written buyer agency agreements must be in writing and signed by all parties. They must have a definite end date. Our agency agreements expire. We have to agree on that end date at the formation of the relationship. How long are you going to give me to help you find a house? How long are you going to give me to help you sell your house? Is it 2 months? Is it 6 months? It's all negotiable. Once our agency agreement expires, the agency agreement actually says you fill in the blank of this date. So if our agency agreement's up tonight, it's going to say our agency agreement is good until November 12th at 11:59 p.m. Agency agreement actually says 11:59 p.m. So we fill in the date. That means at 12 o'clock at the stroke of midnight, we're done. You don't know me anything anymore. I don't know you anything anymore. We break up at midnight. Can we agree to extend our agency agreement? Can we extend it for a longer period of time? Absolutely. Our written agency agreements must include, there's your license number again. And then all of our agency agreements have a non-discrimination clause saying that we will not discriminate against the protected classes. So I have this picture here of an airplane to help us better understand the relationship, the duties that we owe our client versus our customer. So we've already said that we owe our client Old Car. Can I treat the customer however I want? Can I be unfair to the customer? Can I lie to the customer? No. So even though you're my customer, you still get some duties, don't you? Specifically, as my customer, you get honesty, fairness, and the disclosure of material facts. My customer gets honesty, fairness, and the disclosure of material facts. So about the time that we're working with real estate agent disclosure, Don't we need to decide in what capacity we're going to proceed? Are we going to proceed with you being my client or my customer? Because I need to know how to act. I need to know how you get. You going to get old car? Or are you going to get honesty, fairness, disclosure, material facts? So let's talk about a plane for a second. And I got this from my mentor. I'm not going to take credit from this, but when she's doing agency, she uses the example of the airplane. And let's say you're the pilot of this plane. You're flying this plane. You're going to put your clients in first class. You're going to put your customers back in coach. I hear first class is really nice. I hear you get more stuff in first class. You might get like some champagne and a warm towel for your face. Do you get that in coach? No, man. In coach, I get like what? Lukewarm Coca-Cola and unsalted pretzels. It's a different level of service depending on the ticket that you buy, right? Same thing with agency. Your clients get first class treatment. Your customers get coach. You're flying this plane. Don't you owe it to both to get them from point A to point B? Don't you owe them to get them from contract to closing? That's our job, right? So I still have a duty to get both there. The difference is the level of service that you receive in between. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a question up on my screen in just a second, and you're going to tell me A, B, C, or D. But before we do that, I want you to answer these questions in a private chat. So if you guys will, go ahead and find your chat. And then you should, correct me if I'm wrong, but you should only have options to send a chat to everyone or to send a chat just to me. Is that kind of how that looks on your end? Okay, good. So set to just send to me. I always ask for private chat for two reasons. One, I don't want you to worry about getting it wrong. Your answers are between me and you only. The other reason I ask for private chats, because I know some of you will sit there and wait and see what everybody else says and then say, oh yeah, my answer is A too. So this way I kind of make you think. So everybody have a private chat set. So tell me, and I'll give you a few minutes. Tell me in a private chat. I got some questions for you guys. A, B, C, or D. The questions here on your screen. You tell me in a private chat, A, B, C, or D. Your exams are kind of twofold. Not only do you have to know the information, and let's face it, you got to know it pretty well, don't you? You can't just kind of know it. So not only do you have to know the information, you have to know it really well. The second part of this exam is you got to decipher these dang test questions. You got to know how to read these test questions. That's why we give you so much in Learn, Test, Pass, to give you guys a practice so you can start breaking it down. Earlier, I mentioned absolute words. I would pay attention, all, must, always, never, for example. So when you guys see a test question, it's so easy just to a little bit of panic. And sometimes when we say, I've never seen this before in my entire life. So when you see a test question, the first thing I want you to do is just take a big deep breath. It's so important that we remember to breathe on Thursday. So we're going to take a big deep breath. And the first thing that we do when we see a test question is we're just going to read. Just read the question and ask yourself, focus on yourself. What is it asking? What is the question? Not what you think it's asking, and not what you think it's asking once you run down that what if trail. What is the question actually asking? Is there a difference? What you think it's asking and what it's actually, it's right there. It's called the stem of the question. So what it's actually asking. So this one says a broker with ABC Realty meets a buyer and reviews the working with real estate agent disclosure. The buyer listens but refuses to sign the disclosure. So there's our scenario. The question wants to know which of the following is true. One suggestion I have, especially one, you can't do this for all of them, but test questions that you may get stuck on, that you may not sure of, that may be more lengthy. An option you have to sort through these, if we were to go through A, B, C, or D and identify them as true or false, hopefully by the time we get to the end, I'm going to have 3 falses and 1 true. If it's an accept, I'm going to have 3 trues and 1 false. So if you're stuck on a question, treat each answer independently. Is A true or false? Is B true or false? Is C true or false? And even at the end, if you have 2 trues and 2 falses, you still narrowed it down. You know, right now, if you were just to guess, you got a 25% chance of getting it right. If you can eliminate one, you've increased your chance. If you can eliminate another, you guys with me? So if you can kind of break those down and eliminate something, you got a better chance of getting it right. So the broker may not work with a buyer who refuses to sign the disclosure. Is that true or false? Do your head. Do you say, no, I'm not going to sign this and I'm not going to work with you? Is that true or false? Do I have to, can I still? Yeah, absolutely. Disclosure does not create agency. So if they say, and I've heard this before in my career, I had a buyer look at me and say, I just met you. I'm not signing anything you give me. Hey, I get it. That buyer's a consumer. I'm a shady looking character. I get it. I get it. I get it. It's about building that trust. So all you do is you write, if they refuse to sign, then you write, refuse to sign, and then proceed. We're not creating agency. Everybody with me? I'm disclosing my agency status. So we write refuse to sign and we proceed. Once you build that trust, you'll be able to get them to sign it later. So A is false. The buyer may only work with this buyer as a seller subagent. B is kind of saying the same thing, right? Just because you don't sign doesn't mean that we can't be client relationship, because it's not an agency agreement. It's an agency disclosure. So B, B is apparently all, or I was reading too. B is also false. C, the broker may proceed under an oral buyer agency agreement until the buyer wishes to view a home listed by ABC. Well, what did we just say about oral buyer agreements? I can work with a buyer under an oral agreement up until the time I'm ready to present an offer on their behalf. Can I show you a home, even one listed by my firm, under an oral buyer agency agreement? Okay, now before you pick D, let's make sure that let's read it. Read all the questions. We've already ruled out A, B, C, but what if we think we're ruling out D too? Then we'd have to go back and dissect it. So y'all read the question and all 4 answer choices. Will you guys promise me that? Pinky swear. Julie, I promise you I'll read the answer and all 4 answer choices before I slap down my answer. D says the broker may proceed under an oral buyer agency agreement until they are ready to present an offer on the buyer's behalf. What do we think about that one? Do we like that one? Is that our best? I would agree. You got to dissect these things sometimes. And like I said, you guys, you're not going to have time to do it for every single test question. So this is why practice. If you've not done the exams, the practice exams available for you on Learn Test Pass, I just gave you the rest of the day today and tomorrow and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a lot of it is about dissecting and understanding how to read those test questions. That's why we give you guys so much to help get you to this point. What questions do I have on just on this question? Any questions on why D is the best? These get tricky too. It's not always the right answer, but it's the best one of the choices that you have available. Do you ever read a test question and think there's a better answer? You know that there's a better answer somewhere out there, but if it's not looking at you, you can only work with what you got. Y'all stay out of the what if trail. What about this? And what if that? Stop it. Everything you need is looking at you right here on the screen, your practice exam, whatever.
You might have said this and I may have missed it, but with the WREA disclosure, they can say, no, I'm not signing that either. Even
They
though
can
it's just
refuse to sign. Yep.
okay, okay. Got it.
Yep.
Thanks.
If they refuse, again, I had a buyer look at me and say, I just met you. I'm not signing anything. You fair enough. You just write refuse to sign and then you proceed. I'm not trying to create agency. I'm just disclosing my agency status. Thank you. Now, what if the real estate commission shows up at your office one day and wants to see all your files and all of your working with real estate agent disclosures say refuse to sign? Is that a flag for the real estate commission? Are they going to think you're doing agency? You know, you're going to have some refuse to sign, but not all. So don't make that your practice. That's my point. That's my side note here. That's not how we conduct our business. In all my years, I've only had one look at me and say, I just met you. I get it. Guys, at the end of the day, buyers are consumers. We're consumers too, aren't we? You may go to the store this afternoon, you're a consumer. That's right. All right, here's another one for you guys. That was fun. Let's do that again. Okay, A, B, C, or D, private chat. Okay. So first we just read. Buyer agrees to be exclusively represented by a broker affiliated with XYZ. Did you guys see this magic word that means a whole lot? It's an exclusive representation. Is there any way that this can be an oral agreement? I'm not even going to read answers. I'm just going to start thinking about what I know about the question. Is there any way this can be an oral agreement? What does that one word tell me? This tells me that this agreement is in writing. Do I have everybody? That's what the word exclusive means. I have no idea what the answer choices are, but I can study this question. By reading the question, I can pull out some of these words to start, get my brain thinking before I start reading these answer choices. So A says buyer agency agreement is not required to be in writing. Eek. I'm not even going to continue that because what did we just say? It's exclusive, thus it has to be in writing. Buyer agency agreement is required to be in writing. There it is again. An exclusive buyer agency agreement must be in writing once the buyer has agreed to work only with the broker. That sounds pretty good. Isn't that what exclusivity is all about? How many firms has this buyer agreed to date? just one. And just in case, when representing a seller or buyer, the agency agreement must be in writing from the inception. We know that what makes that one not right is the buyer doesn't have to be in writing. The seller does. Is everybody with me? The owner of the property has to be in writing from the beginning. So as we see, C is our. See how we're just kind of breaking them down. I fear sometimes you guys read too fast, especially in the heat of the test. As you're taking these test questions, particularly those in your book, you can't, and there's some of the exams in Learn Test Pass you can, but if you're doing a flat PDF exam or one in your book, set a timer. Practice this week working with a timer. If you blow through it and you have 40 minutes left, slow down. If you can't get through it in the time, then you got to pick it up. I would say to figure about 2 minutes per question. 2 minutes per question should get you. But so many times, you guys, I hear this so much. I knew it. I just read too fast. What's that tell you? Keep going. Say more. You just told me, had you read it slower, you probably would have gotten it right. So you guys have got to learn how to gauge yourself. Somebody else, and I appreciate you sharing this with me. Somebody else said you second guessed yourself. How many of you have ever changed the right answer wrong? Come on, it's like confession time. Have you ever changed the right answer wrong?
All the time.
Stop changing answers. Stop it. Stop it right now. Y'all, once you put down C or D or B, if that's what your gut tells you, the majority of the time, that's going to be right. Do not change an answer unless you are like 5,000% sure that you answered it wrong. Everybody with me? I have known people to fail this test because they changed too many answers. Would that hurt? I mean, it hurts me to say it. So again, pinky swear, Julie, I'm not going to change. I'm going to stop changing. How many of you, several of you just did it in this question. If you read this and you knew it was C, why did you change? Stop it. Fair enough? Or even, that's right, even second guessing, maybe you didn't get the answer down, but you thought, well, once your gut tells you what the answer is, most of the time your gut knows better than your brain, doesn't it? So most of the time, once your gut says it's C, stick with it. All right, good. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take our first break. As I mentioned when we started, we still do take breaks just because I need coffee. So we need to take 10 minutes. So we're going to take 10. So I got 10:02 now. So let's come back at 10:12. And then we're going to talk about dual agency and designated dual agency. Did we come back? I didn't scare anybody off. If you're just joining us, I am recording. So Nancy's class, I'm happy to email you the link afterwards, as long as I have your email address. So if you have not already, Nancy's class, please put your email address in the chat. My guys, you don't need to worry about it. This is just for Nancy's class. We got a good group. Well, I make 46, so there's 45 of you. That's a good sampling from the two classes. So it says a lot when you come on a Saturday. Any questions on anything we've talked about so far, which pretty much has just been disclosure and agreements, agency. The stress is real. Oh yeah. I sat where you guys were once. I know where you're at. You do got this. I believe in you guys. Absolutely. The question is, do y'all believe in yourself? Do y'all believe in yourselves? Because I can only believe so much in you. Aaron, I will let Nancy talk to you guys about that this week. Nancy may be different than me, so I'll let Aaron. You're doing your nightly affirmation. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I got this. All right, so continuing our conversation in agency. And I think it's important that we discuss and have a conversation about dual agency. Question comes in, do you not work many Saturdays, or do you find you're working more Saturdays than what I bargained for? So, dang, I hate to be the one to tell you all this, but real estate's not a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job. We work evenings, we work Saturdays. I mean, you know, open houses are on Sundays, right? So what I've learned is all my buyers and sellers have different schedules. So when if I have a buyer now that can only see property on Saturday, once I get them under contract, then some of my Saturdays might free up. Does that make sense? Guys, I think it's important that we remember that most of our buyers and sellers, a lot of them, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of them do work during the week. So evenings and weekends is maybe when they have available to see property. So absolutely some flexibility on our parts. Do I work every single weekend? No. As a matter of fact, this is the last Saturday I am scheduled to work this year. So, you know, that's kind of exciting. I get Saturdays off the rest of the year after today. So yeah, that's what I said when I woke up this morning. Woohoo! So, and then you also heard me say scheduled to work, right? Because it's only a phone call away from somebody that wants to see something next Saturday. So, you know, we'll see. But so let's have a conversation about dual agency. And for starters, the simplest breakdown of dual agency I have to offer you guys, I have yet to figure out, and I can't talk and type at the same time, so bear with me. The simplest form of dual agency that I can give you, the simplest I can give you, dual agency is one firm. Let's go ahead and call that firm, because we're super creative with our names. Let's call them ABC Realty. ABC Realty is one firm in one transaction with two clients. So what I'm telling you, the seller has hired ABC Realty to sell their home, to sell 123 Main Street. The buyer has also hired ABC Realty. They are interested in purchasing 123 Main Street. The firm represents both parties in the same transaction. Dual agency does not just happen. Dual agency is intentionally created. And how it is intentionally created is with informed written consent. Dual agency is intentionally created with informed written consent. Does that mean I can look at my sellers and say, we're gonna do dual sign here? Did I inform you about what that means? Did I have a conversation? Don't ask me questions, just sign here and know we're gonna do dual. Is that how we create dual agency? No, intentionally created with informed written consent. Let's see, what time of year are we in? College football. Yeah, college football, that's what's big today is college football. I'm a baseball girl, so I'm not like, okay, what am I going to do till April? My fun is over now for the winter. So college football. When you're watching a college football game and you're looking at the field, isn't it pretty clear that there are two different teams? There's the home team and the away team. You don't even have to know who you're watching, but you can look at the field and see you're looking at two different teams. So let's put that analogy into agency terms. When you're looking at the field, one team is the buyer and a different team is the seller. Is it clear that they are going into this transaction with two different intentions, two different things, two different motives? Team A wants to buy, team B wants to sell. So we got two different teams. Prior to dual agency, the buyer, the seller hires the firm, the broker's working with them. Prior to dual agency, the broker in the transaction is acting like the coach. They're standing on the sidelines, they're shouting plays, they're advising their clients what to do. Once we get into dual agency though, the broker's role changes. The clients are still the clients. The buyer's still buying and the seller's still selling. They're still themselves. They're still doing the same thing. Once we get into dual agency, the broker's role changes. And in dual agency, my role goes from being the coach to the referee. Am I still involved in the game? Am I still an important point of the game? Can they play the game without me? No, because they've already hired me. So I'm still involved, I'm still around. Is the referee telling the players what to do? Is the referee giving advice? They shouldn't be. And that's what happens in dual agency. Once we enter into dual agency, the agent's role changes. The agent can no longer offer advice. They can no longer offer advocacy. There is no piece of advice that I can give one party that isn't going to harm the other. Guys, always remember this. Always remember this. It's the firm that represents the client, not you. So when the clients, both clients have hired ABC, we as the brokers under the umbrella of ABC have this duty to now treat two clients the same. And there's no advice I can give one without harming the other. Let's say your buyer asks you, they say, this is a green home, I want to write an offer. How much should I offer? If I say, oh, just offer asking price, could I have harmed the firm's buyer client? What if the seller's asking too much? If I say offer less than asking price, I've just harmed the firm's seller. And either way, I have an unhappy firm, right? Because I hurt their client. And that's where we have to be very, very careful with dual agency and make sure that we understand My advocacy goes away. My advice about the transaction goes away because I got to keep it partial. I got to keep it fair. Question comes in, how does this work with the BIC? Boy, that gets tricky, doesn't it? Because the BIC not only has a duty to the firm, they have a duty to the clients, but they also have a duty to all the brokers. Some BICs don't practice sales. Some BICs don't do sales. They're just there to aid the brokers and the firm. The BICs that do practice sales have to proceed very, very carefully. There's no commission rule that says that a BIC can't do sales. Some do, some don't. Welcome. But if the BIC is practicing, the BIC needs to proceed. The BIC needs to be very, very careful. So I drew this line. Let's call this line our agency wall. And straddling the agency wall is the firm and all the agents in the firm. On one side of the wall, you have the buyer. And on the other side of the wall, you have the seller. The firm and all of the agents are straddling the wall. We're splitting ourselves 50-50. 50% loyalty to one side of the wall, 50% loyalty to the other side of the wall. You guys with me? We're literally cutting ourselves in half. I'm giving both parties fair, equal. I'm guiding them through the transaction. Y'all are still all on my plane. I just now got everybody in first class. I don't have anybody back in coach now. We tend to, well, we like to jump to conclusions. And probably one of the quickest conclusions that we like to jump to is the scenario where the firm has the listing. We've already been hired by the seller, we're marketing the property, advertising the property. And then a buyer comes along that wants to be represented by the firm. Does that create dual agency? Is that one way we can do dual? Yeah, we already have a relationship with the seller. The seller's already hired us. And now a buyer calls off the yard sign, says, I want to buy 123 Main Street. Oh yeah, and I want to hire you too. Poof, we're in dual. Informed written consent. But what if you're out there working with a buyer agency agreement, may that be in oral or in writing. You have a buyer agency agreement and you've been with that buyer for a couple, I don't know, 2 weeks, 2 months. And then out of the blue, the firm gets a new listing that your buyer client is interested in. Is that another possibility for dual? Yeah. So it doesn't matter who comes first. I fear we tend to think that the seller comes first, and a lot of times they do. But sometimes the buyer can come first. It doesn't matter who comes first. Dual agency is one firm, one transaction, 2 clients. Maybe dual agency is one broker working with both buyer and seller. Maybe it's 2, one working with the buyer, one working with the seller. We are all straddling the wall. Questions just on dual. Y'all know I got a possible solution for dual and I'm going there next. But questions just on dual.
Julie, I have a question.
Mhm.
So on dual agency, let me think about it for a minute,
Okay.
how I'm gonna
We'll be here.
compose it.
Yep, we'll be here. I'm here all day, folks. Not
The
really.
visual helps, but I do get very confused in this area.
It is confusing.
Okay, so in dual agency, before it becomes dual and you're just showing your buyer properties,
Mhm.
okay, are you allowed to show them or suggest, hey, our firm has a property that fits all of your things?
Why
Can
would I
you
not?
say that?
Sure.
And then you would enter into dual before you could show.
Well, we've already had the conversation with dual. Remember, even if we're in an oral buyer agency agreement, We got to get, it's express, which means all the terms need to be stated, right? So we've had now we might want to refresh them, because what if this conversation was 2 months ago? They don't remember what I told them 2 months ago, you know? So we may, great, you're in, my firm has a listing, it checks all your boxes. You want to see it this afternoon? They say, yeah, okay, great. Please remember, if you move forward with this transaction, that would put us in that dual agency situation that we discussed. But guys, I need permission from both parties to do dual so I can allow the showing. Because if the seller says no to dual, what they're saying is the firm and no agent in the firm can bring your buyer client. Can the firm bring their buyer customer? Can you bring a buyer customer? Yeah, because now we're not in dual. How many customers do you have in dual? How many customers in dual? Customer, customer, customer. How many customers? Zero.
No.
Zero, none. Thank you. It's 2 clients. The seller is a client and the buyer is the client. Everybody's in first class. So I need permission to show the property. Again, if the seller says no to dual, what they're saying is the firm cannot bring any of their buyer clients. If the buyer says no to dual, what they're saying is they can't see any of the firm's listings. 0 customers. Both parties have hired us. Everybody with me? 1 firm, 1 transaction, 2 clients. Is dual what's best for the buyer and seller? Is dual what's best for the client? No, I just told you in dual, I can't give you advocacy. I can't tell you how much to offer. Is that what's in the best interest for the client? No, it does not. It is not. Dual is best because your buyer wants to buy your seller's house. That's why we have dual agency, to allow that transaction. But they got to understand, to move forward, you got to give something up. And what are you giving up? You're still going to get old car, but you're going to make sure you get the same equal loyalty. That's when we see where the firm and all the agents are straddling the wall. Lyle, I'm going to say it depends on the firm's compensation. We're just going to say it depends. So a possible solution for dual agency, and I say possible because I need everybody to understand it's not automatic. A possible solution for dual agency is designated dual agency. Designated dual agency is a form of dual. Everybody see that? Designated dual agency. It's the possibility of taking dual agency a step further. Designated dual agency is a form of dual. So there's 1 firm, 1 transaction, and 2 clients. That piece hasn't changed. Designated dual agency is always 2 brokers. Always 2 brokers. And what happens in designated, let me back up. If the firm allows it, y'all please do not think that designated is automatic. Please don't think that all firms do designated. Some don't. My firm, we opened our doors, gosh, 1.5 years ago. When we opened our doors, we only had 5 or 6 people. Would it be hard to be designated with only 5 or 6 people in the whole firm if you have small firms? I'm not saying you can't. What if you were a one-man show? If you were the sole practitioner, can you do designated? Can you offer designated? No, because how many brokers in designated? Always 2. So not all firms offer designated. I need to get that out first, because we think, and I hear what you guys think. Well, that's what's best for the client, so that's what the firm has to offer. No, it is not what the firm has to offer. The firm chooses if they offer designated as an option or not. And what happens in designated? The firm or the broker in charge kicks 1 agent off the wall to work exclusively with the buyer. And then they kick another agent off the wall to work exclusively with the seller. The firm and all the other agents, aren't they still straddling the wall? The firm and all the other agents are still in dual. One agent has been kicked off to work exclusively with the buyer. A different agent has been kicked off to work exclusively with the seller. Everybody else is still in dual. Everybody else is still splitting that loyalty, not offering an advocacy. Once these two agents have been kicked off the wall, these two can proceed. They might as well be with two different firms. Once you've been kicked off the wall, once you've been designated and you've been kicked off the wall, your role is going to change again. You went from being the coach to the referee. And now that you're designated, you're going to go from the referee back to being the coach. So now you're back on the sidelines, shouting advice, recommendations, helping your players win the game. The firm is still the referee. They're still in dual. There's two caveats other than your firm. Your firm has to allow. Is everybody good with that? I tend to think that we think that designated is automatic and every firm does it. No. So once we know the firm allows it and we can proceed, there's two caveats with designated dual agency. Before you can be kicked off the wall, your BIC should ask you, do you know something about the other side that could harm them, that could harm their negotiating power in this transaction? So they're going to ask this agent, let's call this agent Bob. They're going to ask Bob, do you know something about my seller? Do you know anything confidential about my seller that could harm them in this transaction? And if Bob says, no, I've never met these people before in my entire life, I don't know them, then Bob can be kicked off the wall. We lost Bob. Then the firm or the broker in charge is going to go to another agent. Let's call him John. And they're going to ask John, do you know anything about my buyer that could harm them in this transaction? John says, well, I actually talked to them a couple years ago when they first started looking and they told me what their motives were. Could Bob know something that could harm the buyer? John, I'm sorry. Could John know something in this transaction that could harm the buyer? Does John possibly know something? Maybe. Things change in 2 years, I know, but we're not off to a good start, are we? So John may not be able to be designated because he goes into this with knowledge about the other party. What if John says something like, yeah, we're on the PTA together, our kids play soccer together. Is there a really good chance John could know something about the buyer, why they want to buy? If you know prior confidential information about the other side, you cannot be designated, and the BIC will have to ask you. So let's say back to John knows something about the other side. Where does this leave John? He can't be designated in this transaction. The broker in charge is going to have to find somebody else to kick off the wall. Does that make sense? Because the first rule of being designated is you cannot have prior confidential information about the other side.
I have a question, Julie. So let's say I am the agent in dual agency, okay, for the buyer. Okay. Then we end up going into dual agency. I just lost my client because somebody else is now going to be the client.
Do you know what you just said wrong?
What?
It's not your client.
Okay. But I just lost my commission.
You maybe would get your Maybe we can get your referral fee, maybe Rebecca, because you've done some work with John or you've done some work with Bob, right? Maybe we can get you a referral fee, but what I'm telling you is you can't be designated. Can you still work? If you say, no, I want to work with Bob, then I'll say, all right, we'll just stay in dual. We don't have to be designated, right? My question to you is, guys, always please remember, OCAR says it's not what's best for us. OCAR says it's what's best for our clients.
So your firm then would decide if you, the first agent, would get a referral fee
Correct. It's
from
up to the firm's,
the
it's up to the
same,
firm's policy.
from your own firm. Okay,
But my point is, you guys, you can't not allow designated because you're not going to get a full commission. You can't not allow designated because you're only going to get a referral fee. That's not how we OCAR, you guys. OCAR is what's not best for me. And this is where it's hard. I wake up every day. What's in it for me? Why do I do this? What's in it for me? And that's not what OCAR is about. Is it
I have
best for buyer and seller to be designated? Yes, because now they have exclusivity again, because now they have their own representation again. Yes, ma'am, Kayla. Sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry. What is the line of knowing, like, because you just gave the example of, oh, if you know John, you're on the PTA together. Someone that's on the PTA, I know nothing about these people other than their name and their kids. So I guess my question is what is the line of confidentiality? Like, I know nothing
How
about
can
their
it harm
lives.
them in this transaction? How can it
Okay.
harm them in this transaction? So if you're on the PTA and you're sitting there in the bleachers and you hear them talking about, we're going through this nasty divorce and we got to sell as soon as humanly possible. Did you just learn something confidential about them and their transaction there and them buying their buying power? So that's what, and just because you're in the PTA together, please don't misunderstand. Just because you're in PTA together doesn't mean you're not going to be designated. The question that the BIC has to ask is, do you have prior confidential information about the other side? And if you do, regardless of how, if you do, you can't be designated. You cannot be kicked off the wall.
But you can be prior acquaintances, just not know any confidential
Do you have prior
information.
confidential information about this transaction?
Okay.
It's all about keeping your clients on a level playing field. Just because you know their favorite color is blue doesn't mean we can't be designated. If you know, remember what we said, price, term, and motive. It revolves around price, term, and motive.
so Julie, let's say that I am an agent and we're in a dual agency and I am selling a property to my sister. Okay. I can sell a property to my sister and be a dual agent, but not a designated agent. Is that right?
Are you representing your sister?
Yes.
Then why can't you represent your sister as designated? As long as you don't have prior confidential information about the other side. You're going to have prior confidential information about your side because you've known your sister, you've been working. That's right. Thank you. It's the opposing party.
Okay.
The other side, you've been working with the seller for 6 months. Do you know something confidential about them? Yeah.
Perfect.
My question to you is, do you know something confidential about the buyer?
Got it. Okay. That makes so much more sense to me.
Please write this down. Prior confidential information about the other side. The other team, if you will. Trina could be a dual agent. She could represent both as a dual agent. Trina could be designated to represent her sister. So one big caveat with designated, you cannot be kicked off the wall if you have, we have this written down, prior confidential information about the other side. The other big caveat of designated dual agency, the provisional broker and the broker in charge are never allowed to be designated opposite of each other. The provisional broker and the broker in charge are never allowed to be designated opposite each other. Any other combination is allowed. PB and PB, broker and broker, broker and BIC. Any other combination is allowed as long as you don't have prior confidential information about the other side. Can the PB and the BIC be in dual together? Can the PB and the BIC, do your head or tell me in the chat or unmute, whatever. Can the PB and the BIC be in dual? Yes. They cannot be designated. Thank you. Yep, just not designated. Guys, once you're designated, you've been kicked off the wall. Your parties now get exclusive representation again. That word exclusivity comes back in designated. So let's say we've been designated, the designation has happened. And now through whatever reason, doesn't matter how, but somehow now that we've been designated, Bob learned something about John's seller. We've already been designated, designation has already happened. And now Bob learned something about John's seller. Who's Bob's loyalty to? Who's
The
Bob's
buyer.
loyalty to? His buyer. So doesn't Bob have a duty to tell his buyer what he just learned about? That's what we mean by exclusive. That's what we mean by designated. That's what we mean when we say, now that the two have been kicked off the wall, they proceed, they might as well be with two different firms. The exclusivity comes back. What questions do we have?
Julie, so, excuse me, the only reason that a provisional broker and a BIC cannot be designated dual agency together is because the BIC is supervising the PB?
That's the nail on the head right there. If the BIC's doing their job right, they're in the PB's back pocket. So they may have been coaching the PB or with the PB at the listing appointment, right? They may have been coaching the PB prior to the buyer consultation appointment. Based on the nature of their relationship, again, your BIC as a provisional broker should be in your back pocket. So based on that relationship, the BIC should know something about the PB's client. If your BIC's doing their job right. And because of that, that relationship is never allowed. What other questions? By the way, a few more of you just came on. Welcome, first off. If you're Nancy, well, for everybody, I am recording. If you're in Nancy's class, please make sure you put your email in a private chat to me. After class later this afternoon, I will send you an email with this recording. My guys, don't worry about it. I'll throw it in our YouTube channel. So you'll have access to it that way. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys some questions now. Again, set your private chats. I want you to tell me in a private chat, please. A, B, C, or D. You seeing some of those key words? It's not just reading the word, it's thinking about what the word means, isn't it? So this one says, all of the following situations may result in dual agency. Is it going to result in dual agency? Is it not going to result in dual agency? I don't know. The question is just asking us which one of these may, which one of these have the possibility to lead to a dual agency situation. And I'm looking for, in this case, do we hate these except questions? God, I hate the word hate, but let's be honest. I hate these except questions. When we do these except questions, now what we're looking for is 3 trues and 1 false. Everybody with me? A, B, C, or D. We're going to have 3 trues and 1 false. Always look for the odd man out. Either 3 trues and 1 false or 3 falses and 1 true. I agree with you, Kayla. I hate the word hate, but dang it, these are horrible. They make you think, don't they? All right, so all the following situations may, I'm not telling you they're going to lead to dual agency. We're just saying that they may lead to dual agency. A buyer that is represented by the firm decides to purchase a property that's currently listed with the firm. So what do we have here? We have a buyer that's hired the firm. That's what we mean by represented. And we have a listing that's already with the firm. Could this result in dual agency? If the buyer is now interested in this property, could this result in dual agency?
Yes.
Yeah. How many firms do we have? 1. How many clients do I have? 2. If the buyer buys this house, how many transactions do I have? 1. Isn't that our simplest form of definition of dual agency? 1 firm, 1 transaction, 2 clients. So could A lead to dual agency? B says the listing agent that writes up an offer for a buyer that is not working with another broker and does not desire representation. So the listing agent again implies that they've been hired by the seller. The seller's the client. And they've been asked to write up an offer for a buyer that doesn't want representation. That makes the buyer the what? If they don't want to be represented, then they are unrepresented. And what do we call that unrepresented person? The customer. How many customers do I have in dual agency?
None.
0. So could B be, yeah, and before you put B down on your piece of paper, let's read the other 2 just to be sure. Buyer contacts a firm interested in one of the firm's listings. Well, it doesn't say that the buyer's been hired yet, but could the buyer hire the firm to assist with that listing, to assist? May it lead to dual agency? Possibly, we could head down that road, I would agree. And then a seller listed with a property listed by a firm calls their agent, tell them they may know someone interested in purchasing their home and would like the agent to reach out to discuss. So again, the buyer may be interested. The buyer may want representation. So I would agree with you guys that the except, the one that cannot lead to dual agency is B, because the buyer's not represented. How many clients do I need in dual? 2. 1 firm, 1 transaction, 2 clients. Here's another one. That's fun. Let's do this again. Here's another one. A, B, C, or D, private tab. Excuse me. Oh, this one's got some interesting responses. Okay, I just had two of you change your answers, and actually one of you changed it right, the other one of you changed it wrong. So it's kind of a 50-50 right here. All right, let's see what we got here before you guys start second guessing yourselves again. All right, a licensed broker learns confidential information about a buyer while representing the seller. The only way the broker is relieved of the duty to disclose this information to the seller would be if the buyer tells the broker that the information must be confidential. Well, in this scenario, who do we represent? We represent the seller. So whatever I learned about the buyer, I need to share with my seller, right? I tell my client everything about my customer. I tell my customer nothing about my client. Everybody with me so far? So A, doesn't relieve me. The seller hired me. Information is deemed to not be material by the broker. Well, that's not really up to me, is it? The real estate commission tells me what's material and what's not. So even though I don't find it important, they have already decided it is. The broker is acting as a dual agent in the transaction. As a dual agent, where's my loyalty? As a dual agent, where's my loyalty? And don't I still have a duty as a dual agent? It's the firm's, there we go. It's the firm's loyalty to, but y'all have always got to stop and ask yourself, who does the firm represent? It's not about who you're working with. It's about who the firm represents. So in this case, the broker is acting as a dual agent in the transaction. We're straddling the wall. The broker is acting as a designated. Again, once you've been designated, you're exclusive, you've been kicked off the wall, and you can proceed. So the answer to this one is actually C. Why? Because the firm and all the agents in the firm are straddling the wall. You don't get exclusivity in dual. You don't get exclusivity in dual. That's what goes away. I now have a duty to represent both.
Miss Julie, okay.
Yeah.
So I got that one wrong. I thought it was D. Can you explain that again? Like the difference between the firm versus the agent. So the only way the broker, so we're talking about the broker itself and not the
The
firm.
broker is the agent. The broker is the agent. But who is the agency agreement with? It's with the client and who?
The seller,
Nope, the client and
the agency.
the agency and the firm, the office. However you want to look at that. It's not with the individual broker. So is the broker relieved of their duty? The firm still represents the seller. You guys with me? I always need you to look up, stop and ask yourself, who does the firm represent?
I'm sorry, I'm still confused.
Okay. Keep asking. Let's get this.
Right. So I'm still confused. I'm trying. Okay. So the broker is acting as a dual agent. So if the broker is acting as a dual agent, I thought that they owe honesty to both parties.
Sure.
So if he's
Equally.
if he's equally, the only way the broker's relieved of the duties.
It's almost like a conflict of interest, right?
It is, isn't it?
It's like,
And
it's like
that's
you
what
have to
dual
represent-
agency is. It's a
Yeah, you have to
conflict of
represent
interest.
those, but you cannot hurt the other party,
There
either
you
party.
go. Just because I'm
Yeah.
in dual agency doesn't give me a golden ticket to run around blabbing everybody's confidential information,
Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
right? We never have a golden ticket to, that's right. We never have a golden ticket. Okay, I'm in dual, so now I can shout from the rooftops. This is why the seller's selling and the buyer's buying, right? we still don't have that golden ticket. We got to treat everybody the same. But the only way, that's where this question, and that may be the wording a little bit, I know. The only way that the broker would be relieved of the duty to disclose, the only way would be if they are in dual.
Okay, I got it now, because if
Yes.
it was D, then he would have to disclose.
You got it, because now you're back to exclusive. You're exclusive before dual. You're not exclusive in dual. You're exclusive after dual and designated.
I think the wording threw me off, like relieved, like these,
And maybe
these-
that it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I can definitely work on that. Thank you. But as long as we get the big picture, I think that's now. Again, you guys, and I know this is hard, because I mean, you talk to an agent, we run around all day talking about my buyer and my seller. Is that right? Is that accurate? Is it my buyer? Is it my seller? My commission? That's another one we like to say, my commission. Is it my commission? No, it's the firm's. The firm shares it with me. The firm allows me to work with their buyer and their seller.
Okay, so Julie, I think the way for me in my own brain that I'm thinking to like make this as simple as possible is when the broker is a dual agent, they are basically exclusively representing both.
No
both
exclusivity.
parties.
No exclusivity in dual.
Okay.
I'm representing both of you. What's the word exclusive mean? How many in exclusive? Just one. So when we go
Right.
into dual, now I'm representing how many?
Maybe I didn't say that correctly. I wasn't thinking like that. I'm thinking like they owe loyalty to both. They're both clients. So they owe Old Card both. And even though in designated, it's still like the firm is still representing both, you
firm
are
is
pushed
still in
off to
dual,
one
that's-
side of it.
You got it. The firm's still in dual.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Yep, of course. Things that make you go, Again, you guys, and we're dual. It's not like let's say you're working with a buyer. You're either working with that buyer as an exclusive buyer's agent or a dual agent or a seller sub-agent. The buyer's either the client or my customer. And if you're my client, is the buyer agreeable to share me with the seller, share the firm with the seller? Agency, careful with that word agency. Agency, we're just referring to the, the brokers in the deal, right? Agency. So we're talking about the firm, or we're talking about the individual agent? Sure. When we talk about broker, we're talking about the individual agent. Talking about the firm, talking about the LLC or the corporation that you're affiliated with.
I think what's helping me to understand this one is when you're the dual agent, you owe honesty to both, but at the same time, you can't hurt the other one in the transaction, because you're representing them both. So you don't want to hurt either party.
Exactly.
I think that's what's helping me to understand.
And that's where in dual agency, that's why my role changes. Remember, I went from being the coach to the referee. Think of me in dual agent. I almost have to take a few steps back, right? I can't offer you everything because that's not fair to the other side. So we always have a duty to treat everybody fairly and honestly, that kind of thing. But in dual agency, it gets tricky now, doesn't it? Because I'm serving two kings. I have two clients that I've made two very big promises to, that I'm going to represent you. And now we're in a situation where I need to change my role, become the referee, and take a few steps back. You're no longer exclusive. It's no longer exclusive because now I'm sharing my representation with both. Probably not today. Kimberly? Okay. Dual is big, you guys. Designated's big. Please spend some time with this. My guys will tell you I got units 7, 8, 9, and 10 ingrained in their brains. So if you're trying to figure out what 4 units you want to focus your time on in the next couple of days, I highly recommend units 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7 and 8 are agency, 9 and 10 are contracts. We're going to talk a little bit about contracts in just a minute. Let's take a break. So let's take 10 more.
So is
We're
that a
done.
hint to, so is that a hint that that's gonna be the majority of the test? 7, 8, 9,
I thought it was
and
pretty, I thought it was pretty blatant. I don't know if that was a hint or not. You are heavily tested on unit 7, 8, 9, and 10. There it is. Yep.
thank you.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Thank
yeah.
you. Anything helps.
All right, let's take 10. We'll come back. We're gonna switch gears just a bit. We got to get off agency and move on. So let's take 10, clear our minds. All right. So we've talked a lot about agency. We just mentioned before we went to break, agency is a heavily tested topic, which makes sense, right? Because we are forming the relationships with the buyers or sellers or owners or tenants that we're working with in these transactions. So we need to understand agency, and it all starts here. The other piece that I mentioned that is heavily tested are units 9 and 10, which is about our contracts. For those of you that don't know me yet, pretty big math nerd. So I sat down with my test once, sat down with the end of course exam once, and I actually figured out that about 40% of your exam comes from agency units 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I say that to say, don't spend all your study time on 7, 8, 9, and 10, because you still have 60% of the material to cover. But that is your heavily tested agency and contracts. So with that being said, let's switch gears just a bit. And by the way, when I email Nancy's class, when I email you guys the YouTube channel link, I will also include my PowerPoint, so you'll have those. And then I have the quiz that we've been working through together, plus some additional ones that you haven't seen yet. So I'll send that to you as well. My guys, I'll put that in our Learn Test Pass. I'll call it a Julie Cram Course folder, so you guys have access to that, so you can get it. So let's switch gears just a bit. And let's talk about our sales contract, particularly our standard offer to purchase and contract, standard form 2T. This is the most commonly used contract that agents and brokers use. Your email just made me do a double take. I was like, that looks like my email, but no, J. Campbell. I know we can get confused, can't we? So the standard form 2T is the most commonly used sales contract. This is what I need everybody to understand. This is not the only sales contract we're allowed to use. This is the most commonly used. We can use other pre-printed contracts. It's got to meet commission rule. We're not going to get in depth in that in pre-licensing. We'll talk more about that in post. What you need to know right now is there's certain things, there's certain parts that the commission requires to be in a contract for brokers to use. And the second big piece is it's got to be drafted by an attorney. We cannot draft legally binding documents. I think somebody mentioned their self-affirmations. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you start saying, I can pass this test and I will pass this test, also tell yourself, remind yourself that you are not an attorney, because we cannot draft, we cannot create legally binding verbiage. If you want to do that, you sign up for law school. It's like that, okay? So 2T is the most common. I'm not drafting, I'm not adding or removing provisions. The only thing I'm doing is filling in the blank. And the blanks that I'm filling in are asking for very specific things. Purchase price, due diligence amount, closing date, for examples. Just because we see a blank doesn't mean we can put any old thing in there. We have a duty to make sure that we're competently preparing these things on behalf of our clients. So all the pre-printed forms that we use, well, not all of them, most of the pre-printed forms that we use is provided us by NCAR, the North Carolina Association of Realtors. The Real Estate Commission doesn't give us forms to use. That's why we have NCAR, North Carolina Association of Realtors. So with pre-printed forms that we use, not just standard form 2T, but also our agency agreements, our addenda, our amendments are all provided to us thanks by NCAR and the North Carolina Bar Association, who are the attorneys that have come together to make sure we're all in compliance. Part of the reason they provide us with pre-printed forms is to reduce our temptation to draft. When it comes to the sales contract, the big picture of the sales contract is that real estate agents, brokers we're not part of the contract. Who are the parties to the sales contract? They are I can see your mouse move. I see some of you type too. The parties to the sales contract, that's right, are the buyer and the seller. Is the real estate agent a party to the contract? No, we're there to assist our buyer, to assist our seller. We don't belong. Specifically, the real estate commission says we can't draft, never draft. And the big picture is that we don't belong. Specifically, you guys, I can't have any mention of my compensation, bonuses, referrals, kickbacks. Where do I discuss my commission? If I'm not going to discuss it in the sales contract, where am I going to discuss my commission? There it is. Here's your answers with question marks. I love it. Yeah, our commission is hashed out in our agency agreements. Would it surprise you guys if I told you? Nothing surprises us, especially once you get into this industry. Trust me, nothing will surprise you. Would it surprise you guys if I told you there have been cases reported down to the commission where agents tried to slip themselves in a bonus? They see a pre-printed, a blank in a sales contract and say, I'm going to slide myself in a $500 bonus here. Guess what? The real estate commission says, no, we cannot do that because we do not belong in the sales contract. A couple of you, when we asked about where our commission is, a couple of you said listing agreement. And let me just make sure I clarify. It's all of our agency agreements, not just the listing agreement. We talk about our commission in the buyer's agency agreement. We talk about our commission in the property management agreement. Okay, so it's all of our agency agreements. So again, with our sales contract, any change to the offer is a rejection, creates a counteroffer. A counteroffer is a rejection with a but. A counteroffer might sound something like, I'm good with all these terms, but this, this, and this. Whenever an offer is made, the person making the offer is known as the offeror. The person making the offer is the offeror. The person receiving the offer is the offeree. Giver and receivee. Anytime you receive an offer, whenever you're the offeree, you always have three choices. You can accept it exactly how it is. Exactly how it is. You can reject it, which means the offer is dead on the table. You killed it. Or you can counter it. And in a counter offer, again, we just said a counter offer is a rejection. And in a counter offer, the roles reverse. The person that just received the offer is now making an offer. They become the offeror, and they're making an offer to the offeree. So let's say, for example, this is no longer our agency wall. This is our communication wall, our communication line for accepting a contract. So you have the buyer, and most of the time, there's always exceptions, but most of the time, the buyer is going to be making the offer to the seller. The buyer's the offeror, the seller's the offeree. Buyer makes the offer to the seller. As the offeree, the seller has three choices. What can they do? They can accept it, reject it, or counter it. As we said, if they're accepting it, they're agreeing to all of the terms exactly the way they are. If they reject it, they killed it. It's dead on the table. Or they can counter it, in which case now the seller, the roles reverse, the seller is now going to be making an offer to the buyer. Seller becomes the offeror, buyer becomes the offeree. Again, counter offer sounds something like, I'm good with all these terms, but the purchase price and the closing date. A counter offer is a rejection with a but or a however. So the seller has countered it. They countered the purchase price and the closing date. Roles reverse. Seller's now the offeror, making a new offer to the buyer, the offeree. What are the buyer's three choices? They can accept it, reject it, or counter it. Every time we counter, those roles reverse. How do you end a counter offer? An offeree either accepts it or rejects it. Ideally, in negotiations, the sellers start up here somewhere and the buyers start down here. And hopefully each counter gets us a little closer and a little closer together. Nobody's bound until everybody's accepted. A counter offer is a rejection. So are you bound in a counter offer? No, because you got three choices now. You can accept it, reject it, or counter it. When an agent gets involved in contract formation, communicating to the agent is the same as communicating to your client. Now, in this scenario, and I'm pretty certain in this scenario, you'll see on your exams, this scenario is going to pretend that both agents are with two different firms. The buyer's represented by ABC, the seller's represented by XYZ. And this is what we're going to focus on for these purposes, because like I said, pretty certain that's what you're going to see for your test. There's this magic moment in time when it goes from being an offer to a contract. Put your soon to be real estate agent hat on. Pretend to be a broker for a second. Congratulations, by the way, that's exciting. So now we're all brokers. As the broker in the transaction, or one of the brokers in the transaction, is it important to know when we're under contract? Is it important to know when that offer has become a contract? Yeah, we need to know this information. So there's two pieces, you guys. There's two things that we need to go from being an offer to a contract. The first thing we need is the last offeree's signature. The last offeree has to accept. If you got verbal acceptance, you got absolutely nothing. So when I say accept, when we say accept, and for your exams, when they say accept, know that it's been signed. Once we get you out in the real world, I need you to verify that it's been signed. Everybody with me? But let me help you out for your test. When they tell you it's been accepted, we know that it's been signed by the last offeree. So that's step one. So buyer made the offer, seller countered. Buyer has three choices: accept it, reject it, or counter it. So they have accepted, which means they agree to all the terms of the seller's offer. That's step one. And then the second piece that we need to form the contract is that communication of acceptance has to cross the line. The last offeror must know, they've got to be informed that their offer has been accepted. Contract formation is two pieces: signatures, acceptance, and communication of acceptance. And when it comes to creating a contract, communication to the agent is the same as communicating to the client. So buyer makes an offer, seller counters it. Buyer has three choices: accept it, reject it. The buyer has accepted. The buyer calls their agent and says, I've accepted. The buyer calls their agent. Has communication of acceptance crossed the line? buyer just called their agent. Aren't we all hanging over here on the same side of the line together? So at this point in time, when the buyer calls their agent and says, I've signed, let's do this, are we under contract? No. We need communication. That's right, Alex. Not yet. We're getting there, but we need communication across the line. So the buyer calls their agent, and then the buyer's agent calls the listing agent. Did communication just cross the line? Are we under contract now? Congratulations. Does it matter that the listing agent hasn't called the seller yet? No, because communication to the agent is the same as communicating directly to the principal. What's the listing agent need to do now? What's the little mini dance, woo, we're under contract. Now what does the listing agent need to do? What do you think they should do next? Yeah, call their seller and tell them the good news. And guys, this phone call is not a, are you sure you still want to sell? This phone call is you are now under contract. You are now legally bound to sell your house to this buyer. Does that, guys, make sense? That's what we're doing. Once that communication crosses the line, it's a done deal and we're under contract. You're going to have a test question and it's going to be like this long, and you're going to have some counters and you're going to have to walk back and forth. I suggest drawing out the line. The question may not ask you, may not say that the buyer's the offer or. If you draw the line and walk it through like we just did, then you can see who the last offeree is that has to accept. And you can see who the last offer or is that has to have communication of acceptance. So again, it's two pieces and you must have both. The last offeree accepts or signs, and then communication of acceptance crosses the line. It goes back to the offer or. The person making the offer has got to know that their offer's been accepted.
Julie, I have a question. You said that all of the offers need to be presented at the same time.
Well, I haven't said that yet.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
We haven't made it that far yet. Bear with me. What questions do I have on contract formation? Two pieces. Your contract, standard 2T, refers to this as the effective date. If you guys look on page 2 of 2T, it gives you like terms and definitions. And it actually defines in the contract when the effective date is. The other thing you may see in your test, I need you guys to understand, guys, they try to trick you. Don't let them trick you. I only need communication to cross the line once. So if I pick up the phone and I call you and I tell you that my guys have signed, and then I follow it up with an email, and then because I'm like that little gnat that won't leave you alone, and then I text you. If I call you first and then email you and then text you, which form of communication put us under contract? Yeah. I used to go like this, but I understand recently that some of you young people don't know what this means. So when you see us old people do this, we're on the phone. That's what we're doing. We're on the phone. Okay. So what puts us under contract? It was the phone call that communicated acceptance. The email and the text are just follow-ups. And in test terms, they're called distractors.
I have
The
a
moment in
question.
time that we went under contract was when you called and said, my guys have accepted. Yes.
What about the voicemail questions where they ask like, oh, it was left on the voicemail at 5 o'clock, but the person rescinded their offer, but they had already signed. Like those types of questions kill me. And I have a hard time.
Is voicemail an acceptable form of, did you communicate acceptance?
Yes.
Yeah.
So voicemail followed up by a text, again, which form of communication put us under contract? Is the voicemail. That's what guys, they try to distract you. That's why these test questions about contract formation are like this dang long, because they're trying to distract you. So we need to focus on who's the last offeree that has to accept, Who's the last offer or that has to have communication of acceptance? And what's the first form of communication to put us under contract? Somebody asked about the mailbox rule. The mailbox rule says that as soon as the properly addressed envelope is placed in the mailbox, communication of acceptance has happened. It doesn't matter that the recipient won't get it for like 3 to 5 to 8 days later. Communication of acceptance happens according to the mailbox rule. Communication of acceptance happens once the envelope has been placed in the mailbox. In email, communication of acceptance happens when it hits the recipient's inbox. Not when it's sent and not when it's opened. When it is received, when it hits the recipient's inbox. Are you required to inform that the envelope? That would be a follow-up. If you want to call and say, hey, I just dropped our contract, that would be a follow-up. What was the form of communication that put us under contract? It was putting it in the mailbox.
Do you have to have like a tracker on the mail or something to have proof? Because, you know, people can lie and say, oh, I put it in the mail this day. And
The mailbox, well, this goes back to the days of the Old West. The old Pony Express is probably one of the older rules we have. And the mailbox rule says, once the properly addressed envelope has been placed in the mailbox. Commission rule says that we have a duty to deliver. Let's break this down. First off, we have a duty to deliver which offers? What offers do I deliver? Only the good ones that are going to make my sellers really happy? No, we have a duty to deliver each and every single one of them. We deliver all offers immediately, but in no event later than 3 days. So listing agents, when you get that offer, when do you have to get that to your seller? Immediately, but in no event later than 3 days. We also discussed multiple offers. Multiple offers, again, presented the offer, execution. In this case, execution means that the offer's been signed. Execution means, yep. So once it's been executed, once it's been signed. Multiple offers need to be handled properly, like everything else. We have a duty to present all offers immediately, but no event later than 3 days. When it comes to multiple offers, we need to deliver multiple offers all at once, all at the same time. Anything you have in your hand right now, in no particular order. We cannot favor one offer over the other. So let's say you're the listing agent, you get multiple, you get 2 offers. One is from a competing firm, and the other offer is from an agent in your office. Can I withhold the one from the other firm and try to work the one out?
No.
But isn't it better for my firm if we do both? I mean, if we do both sides, can't my firm make more money? Couldn't the agent? What if you were the listing agent and working with the buyer? You could get both sides of the transaction. Can I hold off on the other offer? No, once again, y'all, it's not about you. It's about your seller in this case and making sure they have all the information available to them so they can make a decision. So we deliver all offers at the same time in no particular order. I cannot favor, well, this is the highest price, so let's look at this one first. We cannot favor one offer over another. The fact that we have multiple, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is where I'm confused. I feel like it contradicts itself, is because you need to present the offer immediately, okay? when they come in. However, if you get multiple offers, you need to present them all at the same time. So let's say you're having an open house. Okay. And someone gives you an offer during the open house. Okay. But let's say after the open house, within the next 2 or 3 days, you get 6 offers. Do you wait and give all 6 offers when you think nobody else is going to be submitting, or as they come in?
The rule says we deliver them immediately. So if you have offers coming in, you may choose, you may see something like, we called for best and final offers by 5 p.m. on Wednesday. That means after 5 p.m. is the cutoff of offers. But I'm still delivering them to the sellers, they come in. Now here they are. I'll call you at 5:05 on Wednesday for us to sit down and discuss the terms, for us to go over them. So we need to deliver them immediately. You don't have to respond right away, right? We can wait for highest and best. If we've called highest and best, for example, the commission rule says that we deliver immediately once we have them in our hand. And if you've called for final and best, then those people know that you're going to take all offers into consideration and we'll respond once we have everything in our hand. And I need you guys to understand that on its way and in your hand are 2 totally different things. So just because a buyer says they're sending you an offer, you don't have an offer until they've actually sent it. Does that make sense? Tell the seller, I think we got another offer coming in. That may determine how they want to respond.
Okay,
That's right.
so
You present all offers as they come in, but I can say, well, we had a showing this morning and they seemed interested. So, we may want to, wait and see what we get this afternoon. We keep our sellers informed. Absolutely. We keep our sellers informed. But guys, here's the deal. The seller is free to accept any offer they want at any time. So if I call for highest and best by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, and the dream offer comes in today, do we have to wait? Do we have to wait till? No, because the seller is free to accept any offer at any time. We got to keep our sellers informed. Like I said, when you hear that you have another offer coming in, because it might be the offer that we have isn't great. So before we respond to this one, let's see what else we get this afternoon. If it doesn't come in this afternoon.
okay, so what I heard was the only time you would do multiple offers delivered at the same time is when you have a cutoff date and time. Then you would hold all of the offers. Let's say it's, all offers need to be
When do we deliver
submitted
offers?
immediately. So if you're delivering all offers immediately, why multiple offers would mean they both called you, or all of them, all 6 people called you at the same time.
I got one at 9, I got one at 9:30, I got one at 12, I got one at 3. And I'm communicating with my seller. Hey guys, got another offer, sending it to you now. We'll talk about it later, right? I mean, I'm communicating with my sellers throughout this whole process.
So really, you're not delivering offers at the same time of the day.
I'm delivering as I get them in my hand. Once I receive the offer, I have a duty to deliver that immediately. Could I hang on to it for 3 days? Sure. The commission rule says all offers must be delivered immediately, but in no event later than 3 days.
Julie, I'm sorry, I'm still confused. So let me give you a scenario, okay? Somebody gives you an offer at, let's say you have, you did a date and time by 5 p.m. this time.
Okay.
Let's say
Who am I?
Who?
Who am I? Am I the listing agent?
Yes.
Okay.
let's say one offer came in at 10, one came in at 3, one came in at 5.
Okay,
If my options are on a test question, deliver, when would you deliver the offer to the seller?
immediately.
Would, so it would, if one of the options was multiple offers should be delivered at the same time, you would still pick the immediately one first.
There's a difference in receiving an offer and responding to an offer. So I'm receiving an offer from buyers and I'm sharing that with my sellers. When do we have to respond? Whenever we feel like it.
Okay.
The seller chooses. The seller is the one that's driving this car, if you will. We're just delivering offers as seller. Don't my sellers have a right to be in the know? I mean, they're offers on properties for homes that they have for sale. Why? I'm not understanding why we would hang on to them until Wednesday. Because again, we get the dream offer today. Why are you going to risk losing that buyer? Why are you going to risk that for your seller? So whatever you have in your hand, we have a duty to present to the seller immediately, but in no event later than 3 days. Let me ask you guys a question. Private chat, A, B, C, or D. Okay. So this one says, which of the following is true regarding the North Carolina Bar Association, North Carolina Association of Realtor offer to purchase and contract standard form 2T? Again, what am I looking for? I'm going to have 3 falses and 1 true. Everybody with me? See how we kind of break these down and think about each answer. So true or false? It's the only contract the Real Estate Commission allows us to use. Is standard form 2T the only sales contract I'm allowed to use?
No.
No. I can use any sales contract as long as it meets commission rule and it was drafted by an attorney. Guys, it's not uncommon for a builder, for example, to have their own sales contract. Okay. So is it the only one I'm allowed to use? Yeah. It's appropriate for the purchase of a residential lot and a subdivision. We have we have offer to purchase and contract standard forms for vacant lot and land. We also have an offer to purchase and contract standard form for new construction. So standard form 2T is best for resale. If you're doing lot, we got a contract for that. If you're doing new construction, we got a contract for that. So that's not true. Time is of the essence regarding the settlement date. Time is of the essence is that drop dead date and time, which says some performance has to happen by this date and time. Settlement is not a drop dead date and time because delays in settlement just happen. They just happen. An example of a time is of the essence that we see in our standard form 2T is the end of our due diligence period. Due diligence is a drop dead date and time, and it'll say November 12th at 5 p.m. That's what we mean by time is of the essence. So that's not true. So it allows for a reasonable time before settlement for the parties acting in good faith. Bonus question. How many of you remember how many day delay we have in our offer to purchase and contract? How many day delay? Some of you are looking at an old contract. They just changed that last year. It was 14, but last year they changed it. And now it is, here we go. Now it is 7. There's a 7-day delay. You were halfway in between. There is, oh, no, not yet. Come on, not yet. Don't go there yet. Again, you guys, delays in settlement just happen. They just happen. Why? Pick a reason. Pull a reason out of thin air. That could be a delay in settlement. They just happen. Y'all ever bought a house? Did it close on the same day? Not the current contract. The current contract in Learn Test Pass, delayed to July 2022, says 7, delay in settlement. I think it was July 2021 they changed that. If you're looking at the contract in your book, then yes, it's old and it says 14. No forms from the book. Never look at a form from your book. And there's going to be some old book questions too until they update the book. I don't know when they're going to update the book. Seven days. Again, delays just happen. If you ever bought a house, I'm not saying you can't close on time, especially new construction. God, new construction never closes on. I don't want to say never. Very rarely closes on time. So let's switch gears again. I think there's the third piece, the third big section of your exam, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You guys got that, agency and contract. Another big piece of your exam is license law and commission rule. So the state specific stuff, North Carolina license law, that's governed by general statute. And then you have the real estate commission rule. So license law and commission rule, state specific. And one of the first things that we do is meet the real estate commission. And we understand that their main purpose is to protect the public when they're dealing with me. The commission is not here to help me make lots and lots of money, have a ton of transactions, and get a lot of buyer leads. That's not why the commission's here. The commission's here to protect the consumer when they're working with the broker, when they're dealing in real estate transactions. Our commissioners, there's 9 of them. They serve 3-year terms. Lovely people, met some of them. Some of them are involved in the education department. Some of them teach. I know one of our commissioners does CE. So they're like real people like me and you out there. Commissioners are appointed by various legislators, maybe the Senate, maybe the House, maybe the governor. The Real Estate Commission has some power. They have some authority. One of the powers that they have is to discipline our license. If we harm their public, they can discipline our license. Please understand, the Real Estate Commission is a licensing governing body. The Real Estate Commission can't fine you. What they can do is discipline and regulate your license. There's only one time that they can fine. Those are timeshare developers. The commission doesn't get involved with your commission. If you're not happy with the commission split you're getting from your firm, don't call the real estate commission. They can't help you. If you're not happy with your commission split, if you don't think your firm is giving you enough, find another firm. The reason this is important is because the commission is the one that gives you your license. The commission can take it away if you harm their public. But that's what this whole class is about. That's what pre-licensing about, is to build your foundation, give you this basic understanding of license law and commission rule. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to keep you out of real estate jail. How do you stay out of real estate jail? Know the license law and know the commission rule. This is why we're building your foundation, the path. Some various commission rules. First off, proof of licensure. Once you get your license, you'll get a nice license, 8.5 by 11. They'll mail it to you. I say run out and get you a frame. You worked hard for it, so go get you a frame. Additionally, each year that we renew, we get a new pocket card. Every year that we renew, we get a pocket card. Maybe it's cut it out and put it in your wallet. They have a digital version now you can carry around on your phone. But that pocket card needs to be with you at all times while you're engaging in real estate brokerage activities. Your firm also has a license. Your real estate firm that you affiliate with also has a license. And those licenses need to be displayed. The firm will have them displayed in the office, showing that they have the firm license. Once you get your license, you get a 6-digit number. Go ahead and memorize that. Because pretty much if you sign it, you need to include your license number with it. So let's go ahead, before we go on to the next little topic here, let's go ahead and take our next break. Just by the way, we're going to talk, when we come back from break, we're going to talk just a little bit more about general brokerage provisions. And then we're going to reserve like the last 30 minutes or so and just do a quick math. I don't want to spend too much time on math, but I do want to do a quick math snippet. So we'll talk a little bit more about general brokerage. Let's take 10, and then we're ready to wrap up for our last hour. All right. Welcome back. One big part of our commission rule that we need to understand, not only for test taking purposes, but also for, like, you know, your career, your real estate career, is understanding our license statuses. So when we hear about a current license can be active. A current license can also be inactive. I will define active and inactive in just 1 second. Right now, I need us to focus and understand this word current. When you guys see the word current as it relates to license statuses, I want you to think to yourself and hear in your mind the word currency. Your license is current because you paid your renewal fee. Every year, we have to renew our license. The real estate commission's physical year, they do not operate on a regular calendar year. Their physical year is July 1st to June 30th. And every year we have the renewal period. The renewal period is May 15th to June 30th. During the renewal period is when we pay our renewal fee. Somebody said it in the chat this past year, and I can't remember for however many years, it's been $45. You got 45 days to pay $45. Paying the fee keeps your license current. When you see current, see currency. May 15th to June 30th. They have it set up on their website. All you have to do is log on. Once you get licensed, you'll get a log on access as a broker to their website. You can go in and check out your account. And you can also pay that renewal fee. Somebody said paying the fee is really important. I would agree with you, and I'll share why in just a second. So what if, I hear you. What if by 11:59 p.m. on June 30th, you fail to pay the fee? We have until 11:59 on June 30th to pay the fee. Failure to pay the fee means at the stroke of midnight on July 1st, your license is expired. So the first step in understanding license statuses is understanding whether or not your license is current or expired. I'm getting to active and inactive. A current license can be active or inactive. I need you guys to look out for and pay attention to that word current. A current license has everything to do with paying the fee. It has absolutely nothing to do with education. Your license is either current or expired because you paid the fee. Once you pay the fee, your license is current again for another year. You're current for another year. You pay the fee and it's current. So is it active or inactive? Well, as a full broker, drop the provisional for just a second. As a full broker, in order to have an active license, you have to pay the fee to keep it current, and you have to do your CE each year. Kind of rhymes, doesn't it? How do you have an active license? Fee and CE. Isn't that helpful? That's how we have an active license. It's two pieces, fee and CE. Fee keeps it current. CE allows it to be active. If you are behind on your education, but you still pay the fee, your license is inactive. There's two pieces going on. There's two things going on. It's either current or expired. And if it's current, are you active or inactive? Do I have everybody? So step one, am I current or expired? And then step two, if I'm current, am I active or am I inactive? Once you guys get your license, the day you get your license, you pass your state exam, good job. Here's your license. Congratulations. That license is on inactive status that you can't do anything with. Go celebrate. As a provisional broker, how do you activate your license? You affiliate with a firm. As a provisional broker, you are handed an inactive license that you cannot do anything with. You cannot promote yourself. You cannot advertise your services. You cannot hand out a business card. Until you activate your license, you do so by affiliating with a firm.
Is there a time limit for that, Julie?
For what?
To affiliate yourself under a firm after you?
Nope. Some people ride forever on an inactive license.
Oh.
So nope, yep, good question. No timeline there. Firms we said are also licensed. In order for them to have an active license, they got to have a designated broker in charge. They have to have somebody in charge. If you lose the BIC, the firm goes inactive. That's a bad day, y'all. That's a bad day. CE each year is due by June 10th. We have got to do our CE every year by June 10th. Y'all memorize that date. Again, not just for your test, but like for your career. June 10th, June 10th, June 10th. So we pay the renewal fee between May 15th and June 30th. We do CE each year by June 10th. So what if you don't do CE by June 10th? Assuming you've paid the fee, on July 1st, your license will be inactive. Remember what we just said. To maintain, once you're a full broker, to maintain an active license, it's twofold. You pay the fee and you do CE. Kind of to piggyback off the question we just got, you may choose to ride forever on an inactive license. You may choose to never activate it. We're all here for different reasons. Some of you guys want to be top producers. It's been my experience. Sometimes people just sign up for real estate school just to find out what the heck this is all about. So you may choose just to be an inactive agent for the rest of your life, which means you're paying the fee each year. At a minimum, you're paying the fee each year. And that's how you can ride forever on an inactive license. Why in the world would you do that? You might ask yourself. I'm going to answer that question shortly. And I think I got a pretty good reason why you should pay the fee each year and keep an inactive license. But I can't answer that for you guys. So we'll see if you guys agree in just a second. So everybody good? We pay the fee by June 30th. We do CE by June 10th. Very important dates.
Okay, I have one question. So when we get our provisional broker, are you still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I can't see you over here. Okay. When we become a provisional broker, we have to do the 90-hour class within 18 months, right?
Correct.
So let's say I got my provisional broker's license today. but I need to renew next year by June 30th. Do I?
Correct.
So I don't, on the first year, you don't have to have your continuing education done by June 10th.
That's correct. And we will talk
Okay.
about that in just a
Only on
minute.
the first year. Okay.
That's correct. If your license is inactive, they tell you how you can reinstate an inactive license. And bottom line, you guys don't get so caught up in writing all this down. Bottom line for reinstating an inactive license, if you are deficient in education, they're going to make you get caught up. So if you're deficient in post licensing, they're going to make you go back and get that post licensing. If you're deficient in CE, they're going to make you go back and get CE. Again, you can ride forever on an inactive license. All you have to do to stay inactive is pay the fee. So you wake up one day, 10 years from now, you have an inactive license and you think, oh, I want to do real estate all of a sudden. How do you activate that license? They're going to make you get caught up on your deficient. You guys, if you've not done education in this industry in 10 years, there is a lot that has changed. So that's why they're going to make you get caught up. Again, I wouldn't get so bogged down in this. Just know that if you go for a period of time without education on an inactive license, you want to activate it, they're going to make you get caught up. Remember, we said your license is either expired or current. The difference is whether or not you pay the fee. So you pay the fee, you're current. If you don't pay the fee by 11:59 p.m. on June 30th, at the stroke of midnight on July 1st, your license is expired. So now the question comes in, if I allow my license to go expired, if I fail to pay the fee, how can I get that expired license back? And again, it depends on how long has it been expired. If your license has been expired 0 to 6 months, you pay that renewal fee. Again, last year it was $45. And then you pay the reinstatement fee, which is $45. You submit the activation form and poof, you're good to go. So let's say you're busy, time gets away from you. You wake up on July 1st and go, oh my God, I forgot to pay the fee. Are you kidding me? All you got to do on July 1st is go down to the commission, pay the renewal fee and the reinstatement fee, and you'll be current again, just like that. If you are expired for 6 months to 2 years, you got to pay the fees, you got to do the activation form, and you got to go back and get some education. So they're going to make you come back and take one post licensing class, or you have a choice. You can go back to PSI Testing Center and pass that state exam. It's been my experience, most people opt for a post licensing class, but that decision is entirely up to you. So again, you forget to pay the fee, you get busy. Next thing you know, it's 8 months from now, and you go, what do I do? Pay the fees, get caught up on some education. This is the one that's going to hurt. Y'all ready? What if you're expired for more than 2 years? You're expired for more than 2 years, and you wake up one day and you say, I think I want to do real estate again. If you're expired for more than 2 years, as somebody said, you're coming back to my class, you're coming back to Nancy's class, you are starting all over. The rhetorical question I have to you, is it worth paying the fee every year and keeping an inactive license? I can't answer that for you. Some of you don't have to answer that, right? Guys, this happens more often than what we think. It happens where people, maybe you're taking a pause to start a family. Maybe you're taking a pause to care for elderly parents. Maybe another job opportunity comes up, right? There's a cajillion reasons that could have you take a pause. And you may think you're done with real estate. And then life changes again. And you think, well, gee, I want to do real estate again, but I've been expired for 3 years. And you call the real estate commission, you say, what do I do? Start off. Does that one hurt? This one always hurts me. I'll share with you guys the last in-person class I taught before it all went down. The last in-person class I taught, I had not one, but two people that were there because their license had expired for more than 2 years. Two. And they said, my pre-licensing instructor tried to tell me, and I didn't listen. And now here I am. It's my mother-in-law say, if you can't listen, you got to feel. We want to see you guys in post-licensing. We don't want you to have to start. So is it worth paying the fee every year? I think so. It's $45 to keep you out of pre-licensing again. So let's see, I did get a question. Let me go back. Question comes in, do you have to take post-licensing before working with a firm? No, you can take post-licensing while you're inactive. There's no, so you can either not affiliate, knock out post, or you can go ahead and affiliate. Just don't let post get away from you as you're doing training and starting to work with buyers and sellers. A current license, you guys have got to pay attention to the test questions. A license is current because you've paid the fee. A current license has everything to do with the fee. It has nothing to do with education. I hear you, Brianna. Let's come see me in post, or better yet, how about one day you and I do a transaction together? That would be a lot of fun too. We could work a deal together. Bring me your buyers, or bring your buyers to me, whichever way we're going here. Questions on current versus expired. And I'm skipping around just a bit, just so we can cover everything. Again, when I send you guys the information, you'll have all those quizzes. You can look at those. In talking about our continuing education, to keep your current license active, we have to do 8 hours of CE each year. So we do 4 hours of an update course. The update course is the commission's opportunity to communicate with all licensees, various topics. I'll tell you guys, a lot of the topics that we see in the update course is going to be a good refresher from pre-licensing. Material facts pops up in CE a lot. Agency, contracts. Provisional brokers and full brokers do the general update, also known as the Gen Up. Broker in charges do the BIC Up. Do your appropriate update. In addition to the update, we do 4 hours of elective. Electives are an approved topic of your choice. There are a cajillion elective topics out there that have been approved for CE credit. So when it comes to the elective, I encourage you to focus on your niche, or focus on areas that you want to learn more about. Like, is it sustainable housing? Is it, you know, the truth about mold? There used to be a 4-hour elective class just on mold. Actually pretty interesting. Didn't know you could say that much about mold, right? So you can get other various topics just to help, you know, expand your career. As we just said, you guys do not have to do CE until your second renewal period. You guys get your first renewal period off from CE. The thinking is you just did pre, you're doing or have done post. You get your first year off. So what I need you guys to do, the day you get your license, whatever date is on your license, the first time you hit May 15th or June 10th, I should say, you don't have to do CE. So whenever you get your license, the first time you hit June 10th, you don't have to do CE. Always pay the fee. So your first renewal period, pay the fee, but you don't have to do CE. Yeah, when in doubt, just send them money. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, always pay the fee. Your first year, you don't have to do CE. After that, you need to do CE each renewal period, pay the fee and do CE. And the deadline for CE every single year is June 10th. June 10th, June 10th, June 10th. This date should be up there with like your birthday and Christmas. Very important dates, June 10th. Can you do CE on your first year? Absolutely. Do you have to do CE on your first year? No. Good question. Thank you. Most years, CE material is released the previous August or September. So CE starts in the fall. So you have from fall to June 10th to do 8 hours. Is that quite reasonable? I mean, it's not like they only give you 2 weeks or something, right? They give you the majority of the year to do this year's CE. Y'all, please don't wait to try to do your CE on June 10th, because what if you wake up that morning and your internet connection's down? Or what if you're going to an in-person and you have a flat tire? You guys with me? A lot of bad things can happen on June 10th. Failure to do your CE by June 10th means, assuming you've paid your fee, when you wake up on July 1st, your license is inactive. June 10th.
So
Yes.
stupid question.
Yeah.
So does that mean you would have to pay your fee again if you didn't complete your CE in time?
No, because you've already paid it, right?
Okay,
So you're inactive on July 1st, which means you can't activate until you get caught up on your CE. I'm sorry, July 1st. And remember what I just said, a lot of schools don't start offering CE again until the fall. So if you're inactive on July 1st because you didn't do CE, you can't activate until you can get into a CE class. Does that make sense? You paid the fee, that's why you're inactive.
Yeah, I get it. Thanks.
The update course either has to be in-person, face-to-face, or synchronous learning, which is what we're doing right here. This is Zoom. You cannot do self-paced for the update. That's not approved. The elective, you can go in person, you can go synchronous. There are self-paced options available. So what are the two things that I got to do once I drop my provisional status? What are the two things I got to do every year to keep this license active? Once I drop my provisional status. Yep. And it's handy that they rhyme, don't they? Once you drop that provisional status, fee and CE. Fee and CE. That's all you got to do. 8 hours a year, and $45 a year. I know a lot of other occupational licensing boards that are a lot stricter than that. Questions on that? The other thing is post licensing. I agree. But you'd be surprised about how many people lose their license on July 1st. The Real Estate Commission sends an e-bulletin out and they send us a count of licensing, and the June numbers are a lot higher than the July numbers. And you start seeing them come back up a little bit, August, September, you know. I think there were about 40-some thousand in the state that lost their license this year because they didn't renew or they didn't do CE. That's a lot. Unless they choose to. The other piece, real quick, we talked about your post licensing. So again, once you guys get licensed, your provisional brokers, how do you drop that provisional status? You do 90 hours of post licensing. We break them down into 3 30-hour courses. When you get your license, you'll have a date on it. That date starts your 18-month clock. You have 18 months to complete all 90 hours. And you don't get CE credit for pre-licensing or post-licensing. What you get is your first year off of CE. Once you successfully complete the 90-hour post-licensing, you drop your provisional status and you're just a broker. A good question comes into this. Post-licensing have to be taken in order? Nope, you can take them in any order that you want. Commission doesn't care as long as you get them done. Yes, there is a test at the end of post-licensing, but I am here to tell you guys, big deep breath, post-licensing is not near as intense as pre. This is the hard one. Questions on CE, post? Yep, you do in any order you want to. Makes no difference to me or them. Just do them. That's all they say. Just do them. You want to knock it out in your first month? Go at it. You want to take 17 months to do it? That's fine. Just don't let this time get away from you guys. Failure to do post-licensing within 18 months means that your license is inactive until you get it done. So if you're affiliated with a firm and you're in the throes of the transaction and your 18 months hits, you're out. Questions? I'm going to stop sharing just for 1 second. We're going to spend the last bit of our time together on some math. Again, I'll get you guys all the PowerPoint so you can see whatever I definitely have more content here than what we could possibly cover in 4 hours. So I just try to hit the highlights. So what I want to do for our last 30 minutes together is just spend a little bit of time on math. First off, let's all understand next Thursday, you are not going to take a math test. You are going to take a real estate test that does have math in it. Okay, so for those of you that think math is a 4-letter word that I shouldn't be saying out loud in public, unless I'm in a bar or something, breathe. This isn't a math test. It's a real estate exam. When it comes to the math particularly, I think you guys could really help yourselves if you just look at the question and think about it. You can maybe eliminate an answer choice before you ever pick up a calculator. You know, if you're looking for something higher or lower, if you're looking for, if you're prorating, sometimes you can just analyze the question, maybe even eliminate an answer choice before you've ever picked up a calculator and actually done math. My guys will tell you, I don't know how Nancy does math these days. My guys will tell you let's see. Somebody says you can bank CE, you can bank elective, you can bank electives. So if you build up electives, you may not have to do them. Yep. So my guys will tell you, I'm a big fan of something called the T-bar. So this is like T-bar 101. The T-bar looks at 3 different pieces. It looks at the part, it looks at the whole, and it looks at the rate or percent. We're going to define what all these mean in just a second. Let's start with the rate or the percent. The rate or the percent always goes in the bottom right. You don't have to stop and ask yourself, where does this go? I am telling you right now, y'all hear my absolute word? The rate or percent always goes in the bottom right. The number on top is the part. Generally speaking, the part is going to be the smaller number. So when you're looking at the part or the whole is comprised of a bunch of different parts. Look at the table that you're writing on right now. Let's call the table the whole. How many parts make up that whole table? Well, on mine, I got a tabletop and there's a leg there, and oh, there's a little screw right there. You guys with me? All of those smaller parts add up to make the whole table. And that's what we're saying. The part is going to be smaller than the whole. When we look at the T-bar, the back fourth line here means divide. When we look at the T-bar, the up-down line means multiply. That's a terrible line. Let's try this again. Better. So the back fourth line means divide. The up-down line means multiply. And what the T-bar does is give me three different formulas. I can only solve for one X at a time, right? So I have two known variables and one unknown. If my unknown is the percent, then I take the part and I divide it by the whole. If my unknown is the whole, I take the part and I divide it by the percent. If my unknown is the part, I take the whole times the percent. So we have choices. This is one thing that's so fun about math. All of our brains see it differently. So we have choices. We either figure out the T-bar, or we're going to memorize these three formulas, because I'd have to know the formula to solve for the percent. I'd have to know the formula to solve for the whole, and I have to know the formula to solve for the part. So let's say, for example, let's do a little example real quick, and then we're going to look at an actual one. So let's say the problem tells you that your commission split is 3% and the sales price is 100,000. And the question wants to know what's your commission. So I have two known variables and one unknown. Julie just told you the rate or the percent always goes where? Where does it always go? Always.
Bottom right.
Bottom right, always. Don't sit and think about that. Just put the rate or the percent in the bottom right. Then I have two variables left. I have the sales price and I have the commission. Unfortunately, which one's smaller? Commission or sales price? Unfortunately for us, the commission is smaller. So in this case, the commission, or my unknown variable, is the part. My sales price is the whole, which is the bottom right. Up down line means multiply. So when you take 100,000 times 3,000, I get a commission of $3,000. This is why I like the T-bar so much. I say that it's Julie proof. Like, I can't even mess this thing up. What if you're in the heat of the test and for the life of you, you cannot remember if commission should be smaller than sales price? What if? Guys, I've been doing math tutoring for, I think I'm coming up on like 12 years, 13 years, something like that. And hands down, the number one question I get in math tutoring is, when do I divide and when do I multiply? And my highly educated response to you is, do it both ways and then see which one makes sense. Do not waste precious test time staring at a blank piece of paper, waiting for numbers to form and magically do something. Take time and do it both ways. So what do I mean by that? For the life of you, you cannot remember if commission goes on top or commission goes on bottom. You do know where the percent though goes, right? Where's the percent go? Always bottom right. So now, if I'm encouraging you to do it both ways, we flip the part and the whole. Who can tell me what happens? The back fourth line means divide. What happens when I take 100,000 and divide it by 3%? How much commission are we going to get paid? Heck yeah, that's like $3,333,333. Does it seem feasible to sell a house for $100,000 and make a $3 million commission? This class would be a lot fuller. We'd all sell one house and then retire, wouldn't we? This is all we need to do. One transaction, then we're done. You see what I'm saying? If you don't know when to divide and you don't know when to multiply, just do it both ways and then see which answer makes less sense. I fear you guys spend more time trying to, oh, what do I do? What do I do? I'm telling you, just do it. Because while you're staring at that problem or that blank piece of paper, your clock's still moving, your clock's still ticking. So take most of the time when you switch those two numbers. When do I divide? When do I multiply? Do both and see which one makes sense. Rate or percent always goes in the bottom right. Now it's not a matter of playing with those other two numbers. So let's look at a particular problem that you probably will see on both exams. And that's a problem talking about seller net. So the seller net problem, our T-bar would be set up like this. The number that goes on top is the seller net. The seller net is what do they want to net? How much do they want to make from this transaction? When it's all said and done, how much is the seller? What's their proceeds? What do they want to make? And to the seller net, we add all of their expenses, all of their debts, except what the seller has agreed to pay us. So all of their expenses, their closing costs, excise tax, outstanding mortgages, unpaid or last year's real property taxes, everything that the seller has to pay to conclude this transaction, except commission. Don't worry, I will get you paid in just a second. The bottom left is our sales price. And then in this case, the rate or the percent that we're looking at is what the seller expects to collect. Remember, with seller net, who are we solving for? We're solving for the seller. So we got to think like a seller. We got to put our seller cap on. To help us find the seller's ratio, let's think about pi right here about lunchtime. Let's talk about pi. Let's pretend that the pi represents the sales price. The pi is the sales price. This is how much the seller is going to get before they pay all their expenses and debts. And of the seller's pie, they are going to give you a piece of the pie. So let's say the seller agrees to pay you 7% of their pie. The seller ratio then is 100% minus our commission. And the seller's going to get what's left. So if they're giving you a piece of their pie, they're hungrier than you are, aren't they? They get a bigger piece of pie than you do. They're giving you some of their pie and they keep what's left. So in this example, the seller's ratio is going to be 93%. So the number that goes on the bottom right is 100% minus the commission.
Thank you for that visual, Julie.
Pictures help, don't they? Dang it, I like pictures.
That was
So let me let you guys have some fun. I shouldn't do it all. Here's a problem. Take just a few minutes. Tell me in a private chat what you think the answer is. you guys about 30 more seconds and we'll talk about it. So we'll talk about one more thing before we go to. Okay. When you come to a math problem, first off, you guys, test strategy for just a second. I always want you to do the math last. Bookmark math questions and save them for the very end. Because again, this isn't a math test. The math alone can't fail you. And my fear is that you spend more time on the math than allowed, and then you run out of time to answer everything else. So first off, we're on the same page. We're all going to bookmark the math and save it for the very end. So far, so good. Now that we've saved the math for the end, we know how much time we have left to work those problems. Math is no different than any other question. First thing you do when you come to a math question is just read it. Breathe and read, read and breathe. So Murphy calls you to list his home. Yay. At the listing appointment, he tells you have to walk away with no less than $65,000. He agrees to offer $2,500 in closing costs, and he needs to pay off his existing mortgage of $135,000. Murphy's going to pay you 5% commission, which you'll split with the selling agent. What is the minimum Murphy's home can sell for in order for him to net $65,000? Always keep your focus, especially with the math. Always keep your focus on what the question's asking. They like to distract you. And if you allow yourself to get distracted, they've won. When I do math, I generally like to start with where I want to end. What does that mean? The first thing I want to do is identify my X, because that helps me eliminate distractions. That helps keep me focused. If it doesn't get me to X, then I don't care about it. So this problem is asking me about the sales price. How much do I have to sell Murphy's home for in order for him to net that $65,000? Everybody so far so good? So now we look at the number on top, the part. The part consists of whatever Murphy wants to net, $65,000, plus his expenses and debt, everything but commission. So we have a net of $65,000. We have closing costs of $2,500. And then we have an outstanding mortgage, outstanding lien of $135,000. When I add that all up, if I can read my writing, is that right? $202,500. I can't even read what I just wrote down. 65 plus 25 plus 135. Yeah, 202,500. So I've added up his net plus all the expenses and debts, everything but commission, and that's the number that goes on top. The second piece is to figure out how much of the sales price, how much of that piece of pie does Murphy get to keep? So if Murphy's given you a piece of his pie, in this case, he's given you a 5% piece of his pie. So if he's given you 5%, how much does Murphy get to keep?
95.
95%. Everybody with me? His pie, he's given you a piece of his pie. Since he's given you 5%, then Murphy gets to keep 95 for his own. That fourth line means divide. So on your calculator, take 202,500 divided by 95%, and we get a minimum sales price, $213,157.89. This is the minimum price that I have to sell Murphy's home in order for him to pay his debts and his expenses, in order for him to pay you, which he's contractually obligated to do through a listing agreement, and to put $65,000 in his pocket when it's all said and done. 1 penny less. If you sell it for 213, 157.88, that comes out of Murphy's net. Is Murphy happy if you get him less than 65,000 when he tells you what? No. So the minimum, anything more than this, now I got a happy seller, don't I? Because now that goes into Murphy's pocket. Seller net. I'm sure you could. Again, here's the fun thing about the math on this test. All you got to do is show me A, B, C, or D. I don't care how you get there. Just show me A, B, C, or D. You don't have to show work. Did y'all ever get questions wrong in school, math questions wrong in school because you didn't show your work or you didn't do it like the teacher did? You got the right answer, but you didn't. Ooh, that used to drive me nuts. Yeah, we're past that. All you got to do now is show me A, B, C, or D. You can guess it right and still get the question wrong. So if Ryan, if that works, by all means, if you got 213, 157.89, give or take, then that works. Questions, seller net. This is unit 8, by the way, along with your commission math, unit 8. And guys, keep in mind, my commission is based off of the sales price, right? So now that I know the sales price, 213, now I can figure out my commission, 5% of the sales price. I'm paid off of the sales price. Murphy's paid off of the sales price. That's what we mean by divvying that pie. I love the T-bar. We've talked about things in the last 4 hours together, things that I love and things that I hate. What did I say? Oh, accept questions. We hate accept questions. We love the T-bar.
Can every single problem be done using a T-bar?
Say it again.
Can every single math problem, can it be done using a T-bar? Like for instance, like the military and things like that. Can that also be worked out using the T-bar?
Yep, a lot of them can be done using the T-bar. There are some formulas that you just have to know, like for example, the formula to find net operating income. Remember poor Violet, she's eating her Oreos nightly. That's one thing that we just have to know the formula. But anytime you're dealing with 3 variables, and one of those variables is a percent or rate, for the most part, yep, we can use the T-bar.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. I think Nancy does. Am I wrong, you guys? Does Nancy do like straight up pre-algebra? She's A times B equals C, right? That's pretty much what the T-bar is saying. That's exactly what the T-bar is saying. We're just saying it differently. So in Nancy's, A times B equals C. We're just giving it to you in a different format. We're just giving it to you in a different. So there's more than one way to get this right answer. So however you see it, again, guess right. I don't care. I agree, Angie. I like pictures. What was that?
I was saying the visual with the T-bar, it really helps because every time we start doing math, it's like I catch a headache and drive myself insane.
I love the visual. I love the visual.
Good, good. Good. Bless the T-bar. And you know what I like about it again, because sometimes, I mean, test stress is a very real thing. Let's be honest here. And like I said, sometimes you go, oh, what number goes on top? Oh, what number goes on bottom? Oh, what's the C? What's the A? Oh, do it both ways. Don't spend test time. Again, if multiplying is not working out for you, try dividing and see what you get. Sometimes just playing around, you may have several answers. Now figure out which one makes the most sense. Well, guys, that about gets us for today. Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say that, I know you told us like the major chapters, which would mostly be covered in terms of like information, like 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, would you say in terms of math, these things that you reviewed are some of the things we need to focus on? Because there was a few points that which I can, end up getting a tutor if I need it. But like there were a few things that we learned that I feel like I haven't got the concept of like amortization that stresses
yeah.
me out, and discount points. I don't
I
like
mean,
either of those.
you know, like I said, the math there, and I can't remember, you guys, I'm sorry, there's either 8 or 12 math questions. So let's just, for sake of argument, say there's 10 math questions. You can
Okay.
miss all 10 math and still pass the test, right?
Got
So
it.
use
Okay.
use the math to your advantage, right? Like if you can get the seller net question, if you can get the how much does the buyer have to bring to closing, then that's going to help you, you know. But seriously, another reason why I want you guys to hold the math off until the very end. Bookmark all math questions and do them last, so you don't run out of time doing math trying to
Our
amortize.
discount point's so awful.
There, I hate them. I'm like, I don't understand. That's the 1/8 thing for me. I'm just like,
Yeah, I can't do them. I hate it.
I can get this all day. I can do commission. I can do all of this. I can do it. But those stress
Then that's the
me
math to
out.
focus on, right? That's the math that you know you get right, and then you got to get, you know, discount. But discount points are just prepaid interest.
Oh,
Discount points are just prepaid interest. When you come to the
Maybe
age, we'll figure out how to adjust the interest rate.
And it could be just how it gets explained. Like you explain it different than what the other classes we've been in. And it just, it don't make sense when it's being explained sometimes. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a matter of finding what way you guys all know, you know, that light bulb moment I call your aha moment. I love it when I see y'all's light bulbs click on. Maybe you hear it from me. Maybe you heard it yesterday from Jane. Maybe you've heard it from Nancy. Makes no difference. But getting that light bulb to click on. And that's why we have different resources for you guys. This is why not only do we have in class, but we have the textbook. This is why we have Learn, Test, Pass. So we can have several different options for that moment while you're studying. That's a great moment. Good. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like some of Nancy's classes found us on YouTube. My YouTube channel, if you guys want my YouTube channel, just reach out to me. I'm happy to share that link with you. Remember Nancy's class, as long as I have your email address, I'll send you this recording and a copy of the PowerPoints and the quiz. My guys, you'll have it either in our YouTube channel or Learn, Test, Pass, whichever. But Nancy's guys, if you want access to my YouTube channel, I'm happy to share it with you. Just reach out. No, I'm not going to see the chat, Angie. I'm sorry. I'm not going to see the chat. So if you'll send me an email, or if you will just wait till I send you an email and respond, if that's easier. I don't really look at chats after class unless I have to. And I only have to for attendance purposes. So other than that. So yeah. Just reach out to me. Guys, it's 1:02. So I absolutely appreciate y'all being here with us today. I hope this was helpful. You've had a lot of how many came yesterday to Jane's too? Yeah, you guys are like crammed out, aren't you? So, you know, maybe take a little bit of time. Y'all can't spend all your waking hours between now and Thursday studying. You got to put the book down and go do something else too. There's such a thing as overstudying. There's such a thing as spending too much time on this material. So y'all find that balance between now and Thursday. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, study, but go out and have some fun too. The rain is past. and if having a drink or 3 is fun, just remember you got to wake up in the morning and study again. So don't don't overdo
just one.
it.
Just one.
Thank you so
Just
much,
one.
Julie.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys have a good, my guys, I'll see you Tuesday.
Thank you.
Nancy's guys, good luck to you guys. Good luck on Thursday.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You guys too.
Miss Julie.
Yes.
So if I'm just sorry, just a quick question. Thursday, if I'm in Miss Nancy's course, is the exam going to be the same time as our normal class?
As far as I know, you better check with Nancy or Lane to verify.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know why it wouldn't, but I'd hate to say something wrong. So just reach out to Nancy or Lane to verify.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.